fucked my head.
I'm gonna be real with you. That interview wasn't that important.
I didn't think so.
I didn't read it.
My favorite one was Hollis's, the excerpts from his book, and then the one about John, the Superman and the superpowers.
Welcome to ChimiComics. My name is Riley.
My name is Wyatt.
That was really delayed. What's your name?
Very delayed.
I was waiting for Tanner because
Tanner's already been introduced. All right, so we're gonna be covering.
This is
Watchmen.
Tanner's Journal, February 7th.
Yeah.
7:47 p.m. Wyatt didn't read the damn book.
I did read the You watched a motion.
Beans good in the can this way.
I'm going to heat those up for you.
No, fine this way. Herb.
All right, so
you told them
welcome to the read and tell. That's been a long time coming. This is the most iconic comic book, hands down.
It's a book everyone's read. Congratulations. Welcome to our read and tell.
Yeah. That was weird.
Thanks.
Anyway,
Nice job, comedian.
prepare for our opinions on the book. We're going to dissect it a little bit. Talk about some things that are just like, I don't know. Like, we're going to get really deep into the book and its meanings and what it means for the industry and that kind of stuff. Beyond the story. So, first off, we can talk about just some of our highlights without spoiling too much and like a rating if you want.
Okay. I'll start.
All right.
It was good. No, it was really good. I really love Ozymandias. Ozymandias is a great villain, and I really enjoyed reading this, which I didn't expect to, honestly, coming in, because I didn't like the movie.
But that was your first exposure to this, wasn't it?
My first exposure was the movie to Watchmen, yes. My first exposure to Watchmen was the movie. Obviously, I've seen Ozymandias be on, like, top 100 list of, like, the best villains of all time, so I was always curious what made him such a great villain. The movie did its job, I feel like. Did a really good job. But reading the book, I appreciated a lot more of the story beats and a lot more of the characters.
There's a lot more to it than the movie could cover, you know.
Do what?
I said there's a lot more to this book than a movie could cover.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You see a lot cut out. That
I'm definitely sure the movie.
From what I remember,
the movie didn't have the newsstand stuff, did it?
Maybe a little.
Oh, but
No,
definitely not in depth as it is in the book.
I don't think so.
You didn't see him at all?
We're talking about the Indian guy on the river, right?
The what now?
The guy who was on he made the raft.
No.
That wasn't an Indian guy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was just a regular sailor.
He's just talking about like the
the
kid
story.
sitting there reading the comic and the newsstand guy who's talking.
Oh,
to him.
yeah, no, that was in there.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I don't believe it was. I know they got rid of the squid monster thing,
Yes.
and they made it just a nuke.
Is that what it was?
That's stupid.
Yes.
That is kind of stupid. It defeats the purpose of the whole
I
story.
agree with that. This made me want to watch the HBO show again, though. I watched one episode of the HBO Watchmen series, which takes place after this.
I've heard it's good.
And I've
but it
heard
looks
it's
so
incredible.
whack.
So I watched the first episode, and I was like, ew, this isn't me. I will watch something else. But, I felt the same way about the Watchmen movie until I watched it the second time. Then I was like, okay, it was decent.
Okay.
But it is basically a shot for shot. There was a lot of scenes in this book where I was like, oh, yeah, that was in the movie, and I remember that part.
So the book is a lot different. What would you rate it?
Me?
Yes.
Probably a 9.5 or a 10.
All right.
It's original.
So, near mint.
Whatever, yeah. Sure.
All right, Wyatt.
Okay.
What did you think?
Go watch Chimmy Culture Cast. It's awesome.
Yeah. Same with self-promotion. Money Cat. I thought it was very good. I'll give it a 10 as my rating. One of the things I loved about this book is action was used very sparingly. Like, there wasn't many fight scenes. It's very focused on dialogue. I call it the Pulp Fiction of comics because it's basically just a lot of people having conversations, very deep
really
conversations. But the action that is there is really good. Like, when you see Dr. Manhattan doing stuff like taking things apart and, like, a rifle floats apart and stuff. Yeah. And then the final the final fight with Ozymandias, and he catches a bullet.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool.
That was cool.
Like, that's the action.
He's the smartest man in the world,
and he can catch a bullet.
And he outsmarts everyone.
I feel like that kind of dynamic makes you savor the action even more.
Oh yeah,
Has great
I
build
wanted
up.
more of Ozymandias.
Yeah.
I get why they didn't have more of him.
Yeah, he was barely in the comic at
Yeah.
the end.
The
Yep.
big reveal.
I get why they didn't, but they had
Yeah.
like the assassination attempt and stuff like that. But
It
still,
really
I
does
wanted
make
more.
you think that it's not him though,
Oh yeah,
because he's barely in it.
oh yeah.
It's not like
So I know why they did that, but still, I was like, even after, as soon as like we encounter him, I'm like, all right, this is the guy. This is my
I
guy.
also-
So Wyatt's never been exposed to Watchmen
No.
in
Anyway.
that Adrian Veidt is the villain. So at what part of this book did you figure out that he was the villain? I'm curious.
It actually didn't hit me until it was revealed this time.
Really?
Yeah, because that's how
Wow.
good it was.
Was
Usually,
it when they were
Okay.
walking in the snow that you realized he was the villain?
oh yeah, it was
Okay.
when
No,
he.
they figured it out in
yeah.
his office.
Yeah, I know. I was just. I
So
was
you
wondering.
figured it out with them in the office then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Usually when we read these, I'm like, yeah, okay, I know the villain, but this one I was still looking around.
Impressive.
No, I did. I was suspicious when he was sitting in the room at first at the Arctic base and was doing the business stuff on all the TV screens. I thought, okay, that's a little super villainy, but I don't have anything to back it up, so I'm just gonna keep reading. You're on the list of subjects, but
But you were
Batman had a
genuinely
lot of
surprised.
Yeah.
Batman had a lot of TVs.
Yeah.
it was one big TV.
By the way, did no one have superpowers besides Dr. Manhattan in this?
No,
Yeah. That's how it was.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Make
there's
sure
only
I
one
didn't miss
Superman.
anything.
He's
That's
American.
another thing Alan Moore wanted to do is make it like really realistic.
Mhm.
He didn't
As
want.
Nixon.
He
And
didn't want a
JFK.
bunch of. It's not a typical superhero comic, you know.
Yeah, because most of the superheroes use guns.
This book is just what if superheroes were real, like
Yeah.
what would happen. You know?
It's an alternate
like that.
universe
A lot
where,
of it.
Except for Dr. Manhattan.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
like, that's the only
But I mean, like as far as the Minutemen goes, like the original
the
team,
costumed adventurers.
like that's
That's what they didn't even call them superheroes. They called them costumed adventurers.
yeah.
And that happens because of the original, like, old DC comics. Like, they mention Superman comics and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did.
And but when people start doing costume stuff, then pirate stuff gets really big in comics.
Mhm.
And we see an example of that, and it's pretty good. They have a pretty good comic inside this comic.
Did you read the article about that comic?
Yeah,
The pirate
I did
comic?
read that one.
That was like reflective of what was really going on.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily pirates. It's more westerns
Mm-hmm.
of that time. But the whole McCarthyism, them trying to get rid of comics because they're like, you know, they're a bad influence on young teens and
Mhm.
stuff. That happened, and that's when they created the Comics Code Authority, which the comic company said, "Hey, if we play by these rules, will you let us publish these anyway to the government?"
Mm-hmm.
And so they let them do that under that. So that is like actual fact. Some of that stuff.
I love alternate history stuff anyway. Like, that's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah.
And just this is pretty much that.
The whole thing is
and
alternate
there's a
history,
whole
yeah.
bunch of imagery and whatnot in it, like Dr. Manhattan being the son of a watchmaker
Yeah.
originally. Einstein wished he had become a watchmaker instead. See?
Yep.
And I caught that before that quote. Like, when he was doing the watchmaker stuff, like he was trying to do it, and I was like Einstein, that
What
quote.
about you? How well do you know your Einstein?
I'm going to be honest,
I
this is
didn't
the
know
first
that
time
either.
I've heard this.
Me too.
Didn't mean a lot to me, gotta tell you. I was like, what the fuck's with Watch? Is it because it's Watchmen?
As
It's
far
because
as my
of
rating
Watchmen,
goes,
because of Einstein.
I'm the same as you guys. I give it a 10. This is my second read through, and I have seen the movie once. But I've read it like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. But I did notice things this time around that I probably didn't get last time.
Was this the...
That's my favorite part about this book is there's so much in it that you'll get something new out of it most likely every time. What were you going to say?
I was asking, was the version that you read, was that different from the version I read?
No, not
It
at
wasn't.
all.
It was the same.
This is just a bigger book.
Okay.
That's it. And it has
Alright.
extras in the back.
All right.
Big
So
book.
everything's the same. And the version that you have has actually been recolored since the original, the version that you read, and they did the recoloring for this edition.
Okay.
So,
I'm not gonna lie. When I first started reading this book, I was very scared because I felt like I was reading a novel because there was so much more text than
There's
you
a lot
get
to read.
in normal.
and the 9-panel pages.
Yeah, like there's so much text compared to like what we get today with comics.
Yeah.
Like
Like
some of
that-
these,
that
yeah,
page, show
like
'em that
it's
page.
like a ton of text boxes.
2 9-panel pages.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, how
That's
much
how-
to read
That's
here.
There's
how
John
comics in
who-
the 40s used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, funny thing is, so once I started reading, I got to, let's see, where did I get to? I got to...
The part you showed me was Moloch looking
Yeah.
in his fridge.
Was that 10?
No.
That was like 4 or
Yeah.
something.
I didn't think I was that.
4 or
soon.
5.
It was definitely one of the earlier issues.
Yeah, but I only watched one of them, and then I went back to reading at night. And
Oh,
then
did
I
you?
came back, yeah.
He's
Okay.
lying.
No, I'm not.
Jeez. Aggressive.
I'm Rorschach.
Oh, I love the dog story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was nice. Whatever happened to this man? He just get blown up by the squid
Yeah,
thing?
Yeah.
he did.
Okay. I thought he was going to turn
He was-
crazy.
I
on the street
also
when that
love
happened.
that every
like Tim.
character that we see it has an ending.
Yeah, every side character in the book gets killed by that alien thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which kind of,
The 2 detectives.
Yep.
in
And
some ways I
the-
like that,
the
in
gay
some ways
cab
I'm like,
driver.
eh.
And her girlfriend, which we didn't. I
And-
don't think we saw her until
Um,
Bernie or Bernard
The
and
two
Bernard.
the two Bernies, yeah.
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 Bernie Sanders.
I'm once again asking for your financial support.
Your name's Bernie too. Well, good. Please help my campaign.
So, we've hit some highlights. I would like to just like kind of skim through each issue, like not take a ton of time on each one, but like just go through.
All right.
So it pops off with the comedian getting dropped from his building, which is like a long way up. It's like 10
Yes.
stories, looks like something like
Yes.
that. So the detectives are at the scene. There's blood all over the street, and they're trying to figure out who would kill the comedian because like his identity is like, is it public at this point?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's an agent of the government.
He's like super agent of the government, one of the top soldiers, pretty much.
Yeah, and
World War II and Vietnam vet.
Yeah, his main thing was fighting in Vietnam. That's where he was really known for his crime fighting. So basically, a soldier of fortune gets thrown out of the window, and that's when you see his little smiley face button and it's got blood on it. So that's the comedian's button. And of course, Rorschach is also investigating. Once the police leave the scene, he goes up there with his grappling hook and just climbs the side of the building to get to the room.
And that's cool. I love Rorschach.
I love the part when he's looking everywhere and he opens a closet.
I love these little titles.
I like that too.
Yeah.
That shot of Rorschach is so iconic. The window. But I love this part where he's looking in the comedian's closet, and he notices that, hey, this is kind of a shallow closet,
Hmm.
but it goes farther to the wall. So he puts his arm next to it, gets a hanger, and he's like, yeah, this is not the same distance. And then he finds a button and opens it up. But that just shows how good of a detective he is. I like stuff like that.
And he finds the comedian's gear, which is like if Captain America was armed to the teeth.
Was a BDSM,
Yeah, that too.
pretty much. Up here. I also like the relationship between Dan and Hollis Mason. They're both the Night Owl.
Hollis was the original, and Dan, who was
They're
rich,
Batman.
took over.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Dan was what made it true Batman because he added all of these gadgets and stuff.
Oh,
and
he
shit.
made it way better
Yeah.
than Hollis did.
So if
Hollis
he's
was just a dude.
Batman, is Rorschach the question?
Probably.
Rorschach would have been the question.
Okay.
Because that's what Alan Moore originally wanted to do. He wanted
Oh,
to use
okay.
those characters. He wanted to use him, and I think the Blue Beetle. would have been Night Owl.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because Archie does look like the Blue Beetle ship. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had to just make his own characters because DC
Nice.
wouldn't let him.
Well, it was the
works.
smartest thing for him.
Yeah, I agree. It turned out better. But basically, at this point, Dan's already retired as the Night Owl, and Hollis is pretty old now. But he goes and visits him some nights, and they talk about the past and just old crime fighting days and stuff. He's just like a mentor and a friend. And then later on in the story, Hollis is tragically murdered.
God dang, I was mad. I was sad and mad at the same time.
I knew it was going to happen, so I was just like, okay.
Okay.
It was
About
also
time.
his dog. His dog got murdered too.
There was a lot of dogs murdered in this
There
book.
was. Alan Moore has a history with dogs.
It's like Grant Morrison and
Apparently.
Teeth.
Yeah. There's a lot of teeth in here too.
Several times in this book, Rorschach breaks into Dan's apartment.
And Dan
He
keeps
just kicks
getting
the door in. He gets a new lock
yeah,
every time.
several times. And Rorschach every time was like, "You need to get a tougher lock." It just took me one kick.
He's like, oh, this one's a little bit better. But maybe a better one next time.
And Rorschach and Dan used to be partners, so they're friends.
Yeah.
So
I love how he always steals Dan's sugar cubes that he keeps. And he just munches on them. Did you see that?
yeah, it even happens when they're in the Arctic. Like,
Yeah, he pulls one out,
He pulls
he's
his
like,
mask out, and you see the text: munch, munch, munch. It's probably frozen by then.
But at this point in his life, Dan is like, he's put on some pounds.
Yeah.
He has ED, at that age.
Erectile
That's-
dysfunction.
That's a theme in this story. So
He gets over it.
basically he's washed up. But Rorschach,
True character development.
yeah. He gets it up.
Remember
at the end.
when he was
Proud.
naked with the goggles on?
Yes.
There's a lot of nudity in this
There it
thing.
is. It's an HBO comic.
Not
I
as
liked-
much
I liked-
as the movie.
Yeah.
I liked Rorschach and
Roar.
the bar.
Yeah, I love his
They're always like, please just leave.
Rorschach's
He's
detective
just fucking
skills.
breaking people's fingers.
He runs into a bar and is just like, okay, who knows about this crime going on? I know you're in here.
Even the bartender's like, oh gosh, please don't kill anybody. Not in my bar.
There's no throws money. Sorry about the mess.
But also, Rorschach is in really good shape. Like, he never stopped fighting crime when these guys retired.
When the Keene Act happened, because the Keene Act outlawed all costume heroes except the comedian and Dr. Manhattan, because they were both agents of the government.
Yes.
Rorschach basically flipped the government off with the body of a dead multiple rapist that he killed and a note. I don't remember what the note said, but he left it outside a police station.
Another question for you, Wyatt.
Yes.
Did you know that Rorschach... How long did it take you to realize that Rorschach was the guy protesting? The end is nigh sign. Did you still not know
I
that?
didn't realize that.
You still didn't
You still
realize
didn't
that?
know?
No, I just didn't forget. I was spaced during reading,
Yeah.
so I guess I just didn't catch that. But yeah, I remember now when you bring him up.
Yeah. See, I don't know. See, in my head, I'm thinking, like, in the movie, that was a big shock to me. But in this, I don't know if it was just because of the structure of his face or whatever, or because I already knew.
It's
But-
probably because you're
Probably because I already knew. But, like, you could tell, like, when he pulled it up, you could tell exactly who he was.
Yeah, kind of.
So, because there was no one else with that same detail on the underside of their face.
So you didn't realize until he was caught by the police then?
I didn't realize at all.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just never paid attention.
You just didn't
to that.
You just
Yeah.
didn't notice him holding the sign.
I mean, I do now. I remember that now. But as I was reading through it, that was kind of like an afterthought because I was focusing on
when they
some
had the
other parts.
funeral for the comedian, he didn't actually go to the graveside. He was standing there with that sign with the crowd.
Yeah, he was like a
Oh.
homeless guy.
Yeah.
He's like a homeless guy with the sign that says
And
the
then
end is
when
nigh.
everybody left, he went out to the grave. And I think he took one of the roses that were there.
And I remember
Yeah, that was in his pocket when he got arrested.
later on after Dr. Manhattan disappears, then she goes on the date with Dan or whatever, and he's outside and he's like, I saw them leaving the restaurant together. They didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
He's like, wonder if he's like Dan must be proud that Manhattan left.
I like that, like, the whole team pretty much knows who everyone is, and
Yeah.
they're all good friends, or they used to be. And these guys used to be partners, and he doesn't know who he is. That's what's funny.
Well, I mean, he probably has never seen his face. Would you think? With Rorschach?
Well, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
Because he would have recognized him on the street there. Trying to see. Oh, yeah, Rorschach breaks into the military base that Dr. Manhattan and
Ooh.
Laurie are in. Yes.
What a specimen.
Giant naked man.
Dang, boy.
Don't show
He
that on the
thick.
channel, Riley.
We
It's
need to
going to
blur
be
it
age
out.
restricted.
Nah, it's okay. It's just a butt. But basically, Laurie is. I guess we should go over who the Minutemen were.
Yeah.
Right quick.
Minutemen were the original costumed adventurers. They came together under Captain Metropolis, who was like a former U.S. military dude, and he like did all the organization, all their procedures and whatnot. They were like a crime-fighting team, and they were pretty popular until several of them left, and then the comedian there was an attempted rape. He tried to do that to Sally, and that was kind of the nail in the coffin for the Minutemen, I believe. Because after like a year, when several people left, like when Sally and that one dude, her husband, retired, that was when the Minutemen were gone because they didn't have a manager doing everything. So, yeah,
Well, at that point, superheroes were kind of like,
declining too.
yeah, people weren't into it as much, like the American people weren't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it originally started in like the late 1930s.
Yeah, and Hooded Justice was the first hero.
Mm-hmm. And Night Owl was one of the second.
Yeah, he was. I think he was the second.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Minutemen. Sally had a daughter named Laurie. That's who this is. And she's following in her mom's footsteps. She is also the Silk Spectre.
And she is the gal pal of Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, basically the military wants to keep him happy. So she's around for that.
Yeah.
That's it. And she's not too happy about it.
Yeah. She's lost her privacy.
In this issue, we're still in issue 1, right?
Yeah.
She goes out and has dinner with Dan, their old friends. So she enjoyed that quite a bit. 'Cause just getting to get out and do something, besides being in that military base all day. The first, 3 issues? There's this Under the Hood story written by Hollis Mason, the original Night Owl. And that just goes over like how he became a hero, how he grew up.
I love the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, this unpublished author I know asked her for advice, and she said, just pick the saddest thing you can think of and go from there. And he talks about working with his dad in a motor garage, and the owner of the garage had all these like erotic joke items, like
just toys with boobs on them and stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that. And he was wearing these fake boobs one day, and he was going to scare this dude who was to deliver the mailman, pretty much. And he also liked to listen to classical music, like records and stuff. And he was listening to Ride of the Valkyries when this happened. He got a letter from his wife saying that she had been sleeping with his mechanic Fred for the past 2 years, and she just drained his bank account. And her and Fred went to Tijuana. So he bust open wearing these fake boobs. And,
holding this letter,
crying. And Ride of the Valkyries is pointing, he's like, Fred knew my wife carnally for the past 2 years. And everyone laughs at him. And he goes back inside.
He stands there for a moment, and then he just goes back to his office.
Yeah, and they apologize later, and he's like, oh, it's fine. And he sends them home early, and then he like shuts off the garage and turns on a car and lets the carbon monoxide kill him.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
So yeah, and he's like, all right, there you go. That's the saddest thing I could think of. Now let's get on to superhero stuff. Good thing Lori didn't read that book when she was 13.
Yeah. He went on to be a police officer for a bit, and then Hooded Justice surfaced, and he's like, you know what?
That's
That is
pretty cool.
The best way to fight crime. I'm gonna do that too. So he does, and he becomes the night
And he
owl.
talks about how his old suit was like chainmail, and he had a cloak, and it got in the way, and he almost died.
I'm just thinking of that incredible scene when that guy gets sucked into an air turbine.
No capes.
Yeah, that killed another hero, Dollar Bill.
Yeah. We don't get much about him. He was hired by he was hired by a bank, to like
Be their personal hero.
protect the area.
And
kinda.
some bank robbers tried to rob it, and his cloak got caught.
They
on
didn't
something.
take any precautions with his suit. It was all flash.
Mm-hmm.
There was no practicality to it. So his cape got caught in the bank vault, and the guy just shot him point blank.
R.I.P. Dollar Bill.
Yeah, it was pretty sad.
So now we're on to chapter 2.
This
Issue
is
2.
the comedian's funeral. This is where we see Rorschach standing outside with the sign. There he is. Yeah.
And we see Sally, the original Silk. Yeah. And there's the title for this issue, Absent Friends.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love this. There's also a quote at the end of every... No,
Yeah,
what was the quote first?
me see.
Chapter 1.
This was the Bob Dylan quote.
Yeah.
At midnight, all the agents and superhuman crew go out and round up everyone who knows more than they do.
And that's what...
Some of these quotes are like on point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like really well done.
So, with this, while this funeral is going on, Lori is visiting her mother, and she can't understand why Sally isn't as hateful towards Comedian at this moment.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he tried to rape her. So, Lori hates Comedian with a passion at this point.
Yeah, she's not very fond of him.
And then we see that happen. We see the flashback of
Yep.
that happening.
You get the whole scene and what happens, and like he tries to rape her, and like he tries to like coerce her at first, and then she says no, and he punches the crap out of her,
Yeah.
and then tries to rape her, and then luckily Hooded Justice walks in and beats the crap out of him before he could do anything. So yeah, actually the first time I ever read this, I thought the rape happened, and that's how Laurie was made.
That's what I thought too.
But yeah, it didn't happen.
I didn't think that on this for sure.
Well, good.
Infinity IQ.
Yeah. Her mom Sally also has these old, what do they call it, a Tijuana Bible or something.
Yeah, it's porn based off of her.
Yeah.
And she seems rather proud of that.
She's flattered by
Yeah.
it. Yeah, they just made a little porno comic about her. No, she's just like, it's flattering. People used to really like me.
You
and
used to
stuff.
jerk off to me.
Yeah.
Hey, when you're this old, you'll take what you can get.
I guess.
Jesus.
And then we get to see the first meeting of the Crime Busters,
Which
in the
was
60s.
the Minutemen had been disbanded, so they tried to
Good
reform. Yeah, they tried to reform a new team called Crime Busters, which is kind of stupid. Who was doing this? Was it still Captain Metropolis?
Captain Metropolis.
We don't see much of Captain Metropolis.
We don't. He just gets the gang together.
Yeah, and then it doesn't last long.
Ozymandias is there.
Yep.
The Comedian is there, left over from the old team.
Rorschach,
Rorschach and Night Owl.
uh,
Laurie.
John and Janie.
Yep.
So Dr. Manhattan and his original girlfriend.
Yep.
She don't last.
Nope. She does not, because she gets older.
Yeah.
And then she dies.
And he
Yep.
doesn't like that.
Yeah, he see during this whole thing, John is looking at Lori, who is 16 at the time. So, FBI, open up.
Hey, she was checking him out first, though.
I
I
don't
mean, who
think
can blame her?
I know. He's so blue.
Oh, the song where it says "I'm blue," I would beat off a guy.
Yes.
We also get this horrific scene after the Vietnam War is over, where
Of the Nam women.
the comedian is still in Vietnam. They're celebrating the end of the war.
Yeah, all the VC, the Viet Cong, NVA are surrendering personally to Dr. Manhattan because I mean they can't
Yeah.
do anything to him.
Yeah.
And then this Vietnamese woman who's pregnant comes up and is like, well, what are we going to do about this? This is your child. And he's like, well, I ain't going to do shit. So she scratches his eye. So he does.
No, she busts a bottle.
Yeah,
and
she busts a
slashes
bottle
him in
and
the
slashes
face.
him in the face. So he shoots her, and then calls for a medic.
And Dr. Manhattan was right there. He could have stopped
Yeah.
it.
But
He's
he
like,
didn't.
you don't give a shit about people. Like, you know, you could have stopped me from killing this girl.
is
but you
very.
didn't.
He's very perceptive.
He is.
Like,
yeah.
On
He
the
sees through everything.
I see
think-
through the lies of the Jedi.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think part of that, though, is like being so high up with the government and stuff. Like, he sees all of this stuff, you
Yep.
know?
He's also super cynical, so he sees
That
things for what
too.
they are. He has no
That too.
idealism at all.
But he's been exposed to all kinds of war and
Mhm.
struggle and
Like he started in World War II. Like there was that picture of him with wearing a Japanese hat that he took as a trophy. He scalped them, I guess.
there's also a flashback of when the police strikes happened.
Hmm.
And him and Night Owl are trying to, you know, settle the crowd.
And he's just firing at him with tear gas and
gas.
rubber bullets.
Yep.
He's having a field day. He's loving it.
He's like, we're supposed to. He's like, but we're the city's only protection. Night Owl's like, protection? Who are we protecting them from?
Themselves.
He does say that. Themselves.
Drop that can, you little freak.
Yeah, that's trying to attack the wall.
Hmm.
Who watches The Watchmen?
Yeah, that's
That
what
comes
they're
up
saying.
several times. And we also see right after the funeral, Rorschach is hiding in Moloch's fridge. Moloch is the old villain of the Minutemen, and he jumps out of the fridge. This guy's pretty old too. I'm
Yeah.
surprised he didn't have a heart attack.
He looks like Morbius.
Rorschach,
He does look like Morbius.
Rorschach hid in the freaking fridge. Rorschach's journal, hidden fridge.
But he's trying to figure out who killed the comedian. He
Yeah.
thinks it might be him. But Moloch tells him that the comedian comes to his house one night, and it's like he's slap ass drunk.
Yeah.
And he's just
Going
like,
off about this island.
yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. And he's like, all this, man, the whole world, it stinks, man. All of it.
He's like the
It's
dude
a
in
big joke.
he's the dude in Aliens. Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah. It's like, someone explained the joke to me.
We need to get the comedian and the Joker in the room together.
Yeah. I also want to point out all of this, like, I think this is the only time you see this, but right on the street of New York, there's a big porno theater.
Yeah.
Right? That was an actual thing in the 80s.
Mm.
Yeah, Pee Wee
Or the
Herman.
70s,
Pee Wee
wasn't it?
Herman got caught in one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big problem.
Aging
You could just
Mr. Herman,
walk down the
Mr.
street
Pee
and it's
Wee
just
Herman.
there. You know, it's a really bad time to grow up in.
Yeah. Also, of course, we're in the middle
Where
of...
else are we supposed to get our porn, Riley? I know.
Yeah, they don't have the internet.
Jeez.
Dr. Manhattan made electric cars good for everyone, but
Such
no
a weird
internet.
concept. Why would you want to be in a room full of men to watch a porno? You know?
I
That
have
is
no idea. I don't know of the
I don't understand the appeal.
cultural appeal of
Yeah.
porno theaters.
Also-
I don't either.
This is the 80s, and the Cold War is still really going on, so...
What?
Just thinking of Pee Wee Herman.
Oh.
Aging Mr. Herman.
Here we go. Here's your
Pee
quote.
Wee Herman.
Here's your quote. And I'm up while the dawn is breaking, even though my heart is aching. I should be drinking a toast to absent friends instead of these comedians.
Hmm.
Elvis Costello.
That's so on point.
A lot of these are songs.
So then we get another thing of Hollis. And is this
The Christmas party.
Yeah. Those embarrassing pictures of SpongeBob at the Christmas party. See, there's the picture
Moloch the
of the
Mystic.
comedian in World War II.
Yep.
He's holding a scalp, I believe.
Whoa, what now?
Isn't that what that is?
No, that's a flag, man.
Oh,
That's a Jap flag.
it
That's
is
the
a Jap
Japanese
flag. I couldn't see from
The
up
rising
here.
sun.
Yeah, I know what the Japanese.
He's holding a scalp.
I mean,
Metal.
you think? Would you really be surprised if the comedian would scalp people?
Oh.
When you shot a pregnant woman pregnant with his kid.
Okay. I also
Was is.
want to talk about the.
That's true.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Tales of the Black Freighter comic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a comic within a comic in this book. But it's like about this guy. He's been attacked by these ruthless pirates and left marooned on an island. There's dead people all around
of his
him.
shipmates are dead
Yeah.
next to him.
He has
and
to swim to the island.
This is
to get
told from the perspective of a dude at a newsstand is like selling tabloids and whatever, newspapers, and then there's this black kid.
The kid's reading the book.
He comes and buys the books there and reads them there.
Yep.
And I mean, it transitions to this throughout the whole book. We see this comic within a comic and the conversations between the news guy and the kid who mostly doesn't talk. He's mostly just sitting there reading, the dude's just talking. And the dude goes on about how newsmen, they know everything because we see all these information. We see it all, man.
Gosh, I had to read that so many times. I know everything. I see it all. But yeah, the guy, I'll just tell the whole story about the Black Freighter. The guy gets attacked by pirates. He's marooned on an island. So he's trying to find a way off the island. He finds some timbers, like cuts down some timbers.
But he
to
doesn't
make a
have
raft.
enough.
But they're too heavy to float. So he's already made a mass grave for all the people that died around him. And he's like, he noticed one of their like bloated bellies. And he's like, oh no, I shouldn't. But I have to. He pulls out all the bodies and ties them to the raft. And then he's on his way. Well, eventually he gets attacked by sharks, of course, because of the blood.
He stabs one in the eye.
Yeah.
And it swims for a good bit. And
it's caught in his raft.
Yeah.
It's all tied up, and then it swims for a while trying to escape, like moving him even further, and then eventually dies.
Yeah.
And then he eats the shark.
And he already ate a seagull.
Yes, he did. He grabbed that thing and just took a bite, like an apple.
As you do.
As you do.
Yes, you do.
He even drank some seawater.
Yeah, because he heard that you could drink like a little bit and be fine. I don't think that's true.
I don't know. I don't know.
He eventually makes it to his home, and
because he's afraid the Black Freighter, which
the
is
pirates
the ship,
that attacked him
are going to attack his family. So he's trying to get back as soon as he can to warn them and save them.
But he's pretty sure that he's too late, and he sees a couple come out, and he's like, I know them. They're from the town. They were sympathizers. That's the only reason they're alive. So he brutally murders them, and he takes the woman and puts her on the horse and dresses up like the man. And then he's riding.
What did he say about the horses? He said something like,
he said
the horses saw and the horses understood.
Yes. He's batshit insane at this point. He's going into town and
he ate a seagull.
Yeah, he's going into town and you see the silhouette and he looks like he's holding a rifle and it's like a pirate sentry. Hopefully he doesn't talk to me. Then it zooms in on it. It's a scarecrow.
Yeah.
He's like, he doesn't talk to me. He must assume that
he rides by really slow.
Yeah, he's like, he must think that me and the woman argued and didn't have sex. That's why we're here so early.
God.
And he goes into town. He goes to his wife's house. Or his home, I guess.
And he thinks the person there is one of the pirates, and he brutally murders his wife.
Yeah.
And then the children come in there, and they're screaming, and he's like, oh no. Then he runs.
Made a terrible mistake.
Then he runs away.
We all make mistakes in the heat of passion, Jimbo.
And he gets to the edge of the shore, and he notices a ship coming right to him. It's the Black Freighter.
Yeah.
The Black Freighter is kind of like the Flying Dutchman. They collect souls, wicked souls, to work on the ship forever. And he realizes that that ship was just waiting for me, not this town. So by killing his wife and all those people, he was now wicked. Now he's part of the ship.
Yep.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
It's a really
part
good,
of the crew,
yeah,
part of the ship.
It's a really good side story.
Yeah.
And it parallels with the story a lot throughout the book, with what's going on. Let's see. Oh, and Rorschach in his civilian clothes, he stops by and buys the New Frontiersman every day.
Which is the racist.
The Fox News paper.
Yeah. He sends, I think he's, is he really like a Nazi and racist?
I wouldn't call him a Nazi, but racist definitely.
Really?
To a degree, yes.
Because I didn't
In
see
the show,
example.
the people that follow
They're like
Rorschach,
the Klan, yeah.
They're the Klan.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't see example of that in the book. Like I thought it would be with the therapist.
You didn't think the orange-haired man was racist?
Wow. That sounds racist in itself.
Yeah.
I was making a reference to a
Who were you making a reference to?
Trump.
He doesn't have orange hair.
I know, but he's orange.
But he doesn't have orange hair.
He has blonde hair either way.
I get it.
Whatever.
I got it. Tanner.
Whatever.
Thank you.
Anyway, The New Frontiersman is very racist as a paper.
Yeah.
A little bit over the top in my opinion.
Does he do it for the racism? Because the New Frontiersman also speaks up for superheroes.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to just lay it on straight, all right? This paper is right-winged.
Yeah.
The other paper, what was it?
The Gazette.
Something else. Nova Express. That one is left-leaning,
Mm-hmm.
okay? He is obviously a right-winger, so he's going to read the right-winger paper. And it also advocates for superheroes.
Yeah.
Vigilantism. So he reads that paper. But the New Frontiersman, in one of these articles, you get to read a copy of it, and it is racist, like straight racist.
I think I read that one.
He actually says like, "Well, but the Klan had a point." I'm like, "No." He's like, "Yeah, when the Klan was created, it stood for protecting their values and stuff like that." I'm just like, "Man, get that shit out of here." That was a little much. That was Alan Moore like being overly liberal, I think.
Yeah. Then we see John is trying to spice things up in the bedroom with Lori, so he creates a clone of himself.
Yeah, two
dudes.
2 Doc Manhattans. 2 blue penises.
And a third one who is still working.
Yes, and he's still working.
What more could a woman want? And you know what? She still complains.
Yeah.
That's when the fight happened and she left.
I didn't get it. I
Went to
didn't
hang
get
out
it.
with Dan.
Yeah, and we see a little preface. Why did I say it like that? Preface.
Preface.
A preface to
his old girlfriend.
Yeah, he's gonna go interview someone, and she's saying, and once you tell them all this stuff, he's going down.
Yeah. She's trying to blackmail John.
Though, in her perspective, she's right.
Yeah.
She's talking to Nova Express.
Yeah.
Yes.
The left-wing paper.
Yes.
And they are trying to expose
Doc
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
But, the New Frontiersman is trying to combat that. They're like, hey, he's a superhero, leave him alone, So, I like the back and forth between the papers. It's funny. So, Laurie is all sad, and her mascara is running, and she's going to stay with Dan for a while.
And Doc puts on a suit, and then he teleports.
He goes to that TV interview, and basically this guy says, hey, did you know that people are getting cancer from being around you for all these years? He's like, what are you talking about? He names off several people, and then he's like, oh no, and he gets all, what would you call it? Disturbed? I don't know.
Flabbergasted.
Yes, he's flabbergasted. And he just pieces out and goes to Mars.
Boom.
Can you
Tanner, edit that, please.
Yeah. And also, not Sally, Laurie and Dan get jumped in an alley, and they fight the guys and beat them up.
Yep.
Thought that was cool. That reminded me of the scene in Superman.
Mm-hmm.
When that guy tries to jump them.
Mm-hmm.
But they both fight.
Yeah. And before John went to the interview, a dude from the government was already there, because I guess they knew he would just teleport straight there. And he's like, all right, this is the stuff you can't talk about. Because, he's top secret scientist for the government.
Yeah, he's a government agent, yeah.
So we see, like, all the people asking questions
to be left
swarm
alone.
him. Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Leave Dr. Manhattan alone. Leave him alone.
Good God.
That's an oldie YouTube reference.
That's an oldie for you.
Yeah. Leave Giant Blue Man alone. So yeah, he pieces out, goes to Mars.
He's in Mars now. Oh, he
Lives in the
grabs
castle.
he grabs that picture
Yeah.
of them and then goes to Mars.
And then the next issue is it's a full-on essay about Dr. Manhattan. It's all his origins. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
this timey-wimey stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, at the end of this issue, Russia invades
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
because Manhattan was the main deterrent to Russia.
Yep.
So everyone's like, holy crap, World War III is gonna happen.
Yep. And that's when the newsstand guy just lets the kid have the comic for free.
And he gives him his hat, too.
Yeah, take my hat. And they're also in the war room talking. Nixon is talking about, like what's the consequences if we nuke,
Mm,
And they're like, yeah, we're going to lose the entire East Coast
yeah.
and half the nation.
Sacrifices need to be made, gentlemen.
Yeah.
So then we just see Blue
This
Man.
is an iconic scene.
Blue Man sitting on a...
If you type in Watchmen on your, what is that, the iPhone GIF thingy,
yeah,
this will come up.
And then there's just a little picture of a rover going by, or what was it?
That was a
Rover.
bulldozer.
It was a
or something.
bulldozer. They also have Rorschach juggling pies for some reason.
That was from the cartoon,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
There
I don't know what that
it
was.
was just
I have no idea.
Goofy Rorschach.
Mm.
Then what's this? Was another
Just
Hollis under the
talking,
hood?
Yeah, talking about Sally marrying Schexnayder.
How he thinks that maybe she was with Hooded Justice.
Yeah, and they're talking about how he might be that circus guy
Yeah.
because they disappeared at the same time.
But she was really with the...
Who did she marry?
She married her agent.
Oh, okay. See, this whole time I didn't get any of this backstory stuff. So this whole time I thought Hooded Justice was that skinny guy.
Oh, yeah, no. Later, it's implied that HJ was gay
Mm,
with
Yeah, I heard that
Captain
too.
Metropolis.
mayhaps.
I think. Might have been someone else, I don't know. And, what was it? We don't hear about her much. Some shadow girl or something. You know what I'm talking about? There was another girl on the team, and she was a lesbian.
Yeah,
And someone threw her out a window.
yeah.
As you do.
Yeah.
That was another scandal because that wasn't really
Just throw
acceptable. at that
lesbians out the window,
Okay,
like Tanner says.
Yeah. Chapter 5.
The quote for this one was, "Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" From Genesis chapter 18. So yeah, Alan Moore likes to make parallels between John and
Religion!
The power of religion. Religion. Make your
God.
Bible
Yeah, like
speak.
Wyatt said, this is just a backstory about Dr. Manhattan.
And this is...
You tell it.
Okay. We start off with him. He's on Mars. He's holding the picture. And he's just saying that all these different, like, measurements of time and distance. Like, I am 227 million kilometers from the sun. Its light is already 10 minutes old and will not reach Pluto for another 2 hours. He's just saying all this physics stuff and how he has just such a higher understanding.
He also views time and like, I was doing this 27 minutes ago, and he's like, now it's 1949. I'm in that base, and now it's the present.
Yeah, like, here's the first time we get to see that. It is 1945. I sit in a Brooklyn kitchen, fascinated by an arrangement of cogs in black velvet. I am 16 years old. Then the next panel, it is 1985. I am on Mars. I am 56 years old. The photograph lies on my feet, falls from my fingers, is in my hand. I am watching the stars admiring their complex trajectories through space, through time. I am trying to give a name to the force that set them in motion. And the title for this story is Watchmaker.
Appropriate.
And that's when I got this. There's a quote that's at the end of this by Einstein saying he should have been a watchmaker.
By the end of the issue, he's doing that whole time trippy stuff so often that you're like trying to keep up with where he is in his mind.
So his dad tells him he needs to be focusing on nuclear stuff because that's
because
the future,
there's
not
not-
these damn watches.
Yeah,
Throws them out the door.
He's like, you're not going to be able to survive as a watchmaker in this world, so I want you to go get
He
an
said-
education.
He said they had just dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. And he said, what's the point of keeping time anymore? They're going to blow up this whole world anyway.
All the time in the world, Riley.
So we
It's all
see
about nukes.
He
John.
breaks his glasses.
So then we see John Osterman, which is Dr. Manhattan. This is his origin. He goes to work at a government lab, and they show him all this expensive equipment. What?
Nothing. Continue.
they show him all this expensive equipment. He's like, don't worry, this is where all the real stuff happens, and shows him the bar that they all hang out in. And this is where...
Hands him a cold beer.
Yeah, John meets
He
Janie.
refers to that several times.
A nice cold beer.
The beer's cold in my hand.
She buys him a drink, and this is the first time he's really interacted with a woman, I reckon.
Uh-oh, footsie.
Oh, that does happen. Well, so he's dropping this photograph on Mars and remembering, or this is happening. I don't know. It's
How
complicated.
he met her.
Yeah, they no, not how he met her. This is when they actually go to her home in New Jersey, and they go to Coney Island, and
He went to visit somebody, she went to visit somebody
Yeah.
also.
and they just decided to hang out.
Yeah, and she's like, well, I don't have anywhere to stay right now. He's like, well, you could just share my hotel room with me.
And they bang.
And then they do it.
Yeah. And
As
he
you
refers to this point where she has a watch, and she drops it, and a dude steps on it and breaks it, and he's like, don't worry, I can fix it.
Yep.
And
He does.
yeah, this is very important, because when they get back, she asks about it, and he's like, oh, I left it in my lab coat, which is in the testing chamber. I'll go get it. And he goes in there, and it automatically locks, which is... they're testing for
It's
this...
Doctor Who logic.
They're testing, yeah,
Yes.
pretty much. They're testing this different energy field that's theoretical and all. They're just trying to test if it exists and whatnot. It does. So he gets locked in there, and he's like, "Oh, hey, everyone. Yeah, I've been a bit of klutzy. Go ahead and let me out." And they're like, "I'm sorry, John, but we can't do that. I mean, it's locked in. I'm sorry." And he
You
calls
can't
out,
open it. It's a safety feature.
yeah, it's a safety feature. Is what he says it like. And he calls for Janie, and she's like, John, no, I just can't do it. And she leaves him. And we get this very iconic panel.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah,
It vaporizes him.
fully, yeah. And then we fast forward a couple years, and they think the base is haunted. We see,
It's not years, is it?
yeah, it's a couple years.
I don't think so.
It's a couple years for him to come back.
I like Floating Brain Man.
Yeah, this is like a
He's
nervous.
bundle
He's just a
of
nervous
It's just a
system.
nervous
And then he
system.
finally gets muscles.
muscles in the skeleton.
And the soldier's like, holy freaking crap. Seeing it.
Anyone else wonder why he just came back blue? Is it because of the radiation, whatever? I think that's the scene where in the movie he's just got a big dong.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd walk around like that too.
Yeah, he shows up back. He's pretty much built himself back from the
She
dead.
recognized him from the penis.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I guess. That's a good point.
I mean,
She's-
he looks nothing like he used
she's
to.
the only
How
one who
else would she
recognizes
recognize him?
John's a grower here, not a shower.
How would you recognize that man?
I love John in pants and a tank top. A white
Yeah, I
beater.
know. It's funny.
So he starts living with Janie.
Yep.
And he says, I'll
You
always.
still can't get used to him.
Yeah. And he's like, don't worry, I'll always want you. And then he says, as I lie, I hear her shouting at me in 1963, sobbing in 1966. My fingers open, the photogram is falling. So he's talking about the photograph of himself on Mars. Of him with her originally when they were human. He was human. She was always human.
This is when they're trying to make him into a superhero, and he does that symbol on his
Yeah,
head.
the original symbol is just the standard atomic. You got the rings around the atom, just standard. He's like, it's meaningless. A hydrogen atom would be more appropriate. I don't think I shall be wearing this. So he makes this new symbol, and then they give him his name, and they'll think of Dr. Manhattan. And he says, Dr. what? And Dr. Manhattan Project is the atomic bomb project. He gets America is using him as a weapon. Like, that's all this is. That's all this reveal and everything. It's all to use him as a weapon.
Then there's like old clips on TV with him like taking apart a rifle without touching it.
He shoots a beam at a tank and melts it. And he says, well, I don't think he says anything in this, but then we see some of the other superheroes at the time, like Captain Metropolis, like, We're pleased, obviously, very, very pleased. He's feeling kind of replaced. And Sally is, well, you know, they say he walks through walls and stuff. I believe it when I see it. And Janie is like, oh, look, you knocked them all dead. Like, all these people, these superheroes that are like, well, you're the real deal.
Mm-hmm. He actually has powers.
Yeah. So we see him
doing the superhero thing, fighting some crime.
Yeah, he says, the newspapers call me a crime fighter, so the Pentagon says I must fight crime. In Moloch's underground vice den, the sighs turn to screams of terror, and you see him just blowing up a dude's head by pointing at him.
I'm going to pause it right quick.
Yeah, this would be a long one.
Yeah, speed it up.
Okay, so we see Dr. Manhattan shaking hands with Kennedy, and Kennedy asks him...
He still died, though.
Yeah, he's asking what it's like to be a superhero, and John tells him he should know, and he nods laughing. 2 years later in Dallas, his head snaps forward and then back. 2 shots. And the comedian...
Say, at this point in his life, John is actually kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the book, he is a little bit, too. But that period for a long time, he was like very...
Scary.
Yeah, he was very...
dislikable.
Yeah, and kind of like dislodged from all of society. He was just disconnected.
Later, we find out that Nixon and the comedian is Nixon's top dog, basically.
Yeah.
They were in Dallas at the time. I mean, comedian's top soldier. Nixon wants to be president and is president for a pretty good bit in this book.
Are you trying to say the comedian shot JFK?
I think that's what I'm saying.
No,
yeah.
that didn't happen.
I
don't think so.
Yeah, they mentioned that. Like, they're like, why
No,
was...
they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They hint at it.
Yeah.
When?
They talk about how Nixon was there at the thing, and so
They're
was
like,
the comedian.
they're like, why was Nixon in Dallas and the comedian?
They hint at it.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Well, it happened.
Okay.
So, yeah, we see... He talks to Hollis, the original Night Owl, when he's retiring.
I just noticed it was that same freaking statue.
Mm-hmm. Oh, damn. Why would you do that to me?
Didn't notice it at the first time.
So,
Did you notice it?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't
Hollis
notice
is going on about how he just wants to be a mechanic, and John is like, oh, I can mass produce enough lithium that we'll just have electric cars. And Hollis is like, yeah, I hope so too. I hope that happens.
Crush my dreams,
yeah.
man.
He's super freaked out. Then we see John is arguing with Janie because he tells her that, yeah, I knew that JFK was going to get shot. And she's like...
Didn't stop.
Yeah, and she's like, in 1959, I could hear you shouting. Here now in 1963. Soon we make love. Like, he's just talking. And, I mean, it happens.
He does that to Laurie, too.
Yeah.
He says stuff like that.
Yeah, he's like, that Wally arrives with the earrings I ordered for you, and then we make love. And that's exactly what happens. Then we see the future. We see when he meets Laurie, and at the Crime Busters meeting, and then immediately flash to them banging, and then...
You taste like batteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens, and Janie is, of course, heartbroken, and she screams at him saying that you went after jailbait, which is right, because, I mean, Laurie is 16 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Janie leaves him, as she did, because, I mean, he cheated on her. He doesn't love her anymore.
Then more comedian stuff in Vietnam. He's napalming the village.
Yep. Well, not napalming, he's flamethrowering. And he makes this, he says, Blake is interesting. I've never met anyone so deliberately immoral. He suits the climate here, the madness, the pointless butchery. As I come to understand Vietnam and what it implies about the human condition, I also realize that few humans will permit themselves such an understanding. Blake's different. He understands perfectly, and he doesn't care. So, then we see this awesome shot of a giant Dr. Manhattan walking through the jungle.
Vietnam, yeah.
Viet Cong are running away in terror. Helicopters are flying past, and I mean, there's napalm landing. They're all surrendering. Then we see John meet Ozymandias, John and Lori go to meet him, and Ozymandias has this genetically engineered cat that's really cool.
I love Bubastis.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Rip Bubastis.
Yes.
So Ozymandias is the world's smartest man, and I mean John is basically God. So they're talking.
At his home in Antarctica.
Yeah. That is so super villainy now that we know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And he has like a tropical jungle in it.
Yeah,
in the middle of a
terrarium.
blizzard.
He's not even a villain. He's
Ozzy-
the hero.
Oh
Then
my
we
gosh,
see-
stop.
We see when the riots are happening,
did the
when the
greater good, right?
when the police strike happens, Lori and John are protecting the White House from the mobs, and pay attention, you will all return to your homes. And they're like, oh yeah, and what if we don't, you big blue fruit?
That
And
wasn't a question.
he said, yeah, you misunderstand me, it was not a request, and teleports them all, and Lori's like, Jesus. And the next day, I'm reading in the paper of 2 people who suffered heart attacks upon suddenly finding themselves indoors. More would have suffered during a riot, I'm certain.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And then he makes that big old thing. Does he
We
do that in
see-
this issue?
We see the Keen
He's
Act.
playing with sand.
Yeah, that happens at the very end.
It's cold and rough and it gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate sand.
So we see this cool shot of New York with airships in the background, because, I mean, John has led technology
It's like Batman
go
animated
forward.
series.
Yeah. So then we see
that
another
once.
flashback to Janie handing him the beer, another flashback to him going back to the bar to get the paper. We see Lori walking out. And this is where we see him create this glass palace on Mars.
Looks like a clock. I think it might show a better picture on the next page. Like the whole thing.
It shows a
I wanna-
lot better
I
picture
wanna-
when they're floating around in it later on.
Yeah, that was cool.
There.
Yeah. What's
And
the quote?
is,
All Einstein.
the release of atom power has changed everything, except our way of thinking. The solution to this problem lies in the heart of mankind. If only I had known, I should have become a watchmaker.
Yeah. And this one doesn't have any more under the hood stuff from Mason,
Yeah.
but it does have an essay about Dr. Manhattan
And the
how-
superpowers. It talks about the Soviet Union and the U.S., and how Dr. Manhattan isn't really as big a deterrent as you think.
No, he's a big deterrent.
Yeah, but they talk about why he isn't.
But like, he's also talking about the Soviet mindset of like
Mhm.
they would rather die than let the U.S. win.
And they
Literally.
say that Manhattan can only really take down 60% of the nukes. And 60% of 40% of Soviet nukes is still enough to end the world. So, like I said, he's not as much of a deterrent as you think.
It also talks about how much of an impact he has made on the world and how he's advanced technology, and just the way of life and thinking in the world. And I think that has, in this guy's view, kind of pushed that rivalry between the U.S. and Russia a little bit, because they're like, hey, you got this all-powerful guy on your side, like, and we just got nukes, you know?
And I mean, from real life, the Soviets were actually a little bit better, technologically speaking, like especially with space stuff for a good bit. What are you doing?
You burped in my face.
Jeez.
When? I don't remember.
You did, like 5 seconds ago. I thought you knew because you looked at me.
No.
So then I just stared at you.
I didn't realize I burped.
Did you watch the motion comic for Chapter 5? Because I'm curious if this light was flashing.
Yes.
If you saw it. Because that's what it's like trying to do in the comic. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh my
it.
god, it was so good. The motion comic was great.
Oh yeah, this
'Cause
is
it-
the fridge again.
It showed a lot of like motion to each scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, he's
He
going
sent a
into
Snapchat to me, so I saw this.
Molly's going to the fridge again.
yeah, Malek's coming,
He thinks someone broke into his house.
He's got a gun.
and then he said Rorschach left a thing in the fridge that says "behind you," and Rorschach shows up, and we get the title of this issue called "Fearful Symmetry." We get a nice view of how Rorschach's mask always changes.
You keep calling him Rorschach.
Oh, what is his name?
Rorschach.
Rorschach. It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Anyways,
Continue.
Rorschach.
he saw him at the funeral, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he originally went. Now he's back.
Yeah, and he wants to know why he was at his funeral. And
He goes on about how he has an unlicensed firearm, and he's like, "You better get that license."
yeah,
He cracks an egg on the counter and just drinks it.
Yeah.
and he tells him that he doesn't know who did it and what happened.
And this guy like went crazy and killed his family.
Because
He killed his kids and then killed himself in front of his
Yeah.
wife because like the world's gonna end. He just
Right.
went nuts.
And
so
Riley's
the
already told the
detectives
story
are
of
looking at that,
the
this
pirate.
guy.
the comic.
Oh, and then we get Rorschach going. Well, they're finishing up dinner, Sue and Dan.
Lori.
Yeah, whatever. And then I don't know why I said Sue. I really don't. I just said Sue. Anyways, then they're over here. By the way, is this in every...
It's in a lot of them, yeah. There's somebody
was-
tagging the walls with a
a
silhouette.
silhouette? But then at the end, it's Dr. Manhattan and her.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that was like him who did that. Like it just silhouetted when they disappeared or something. And it like did it through time or something. I don't know. Anyways, that's on the whole thing. We meet Rorschach at his apartment. And we have... just ignore it, Wyatt. We have the
You're
hooker
doing it
lady.
on purpose now.
Hooker lady's
No,
outside.
Say dark side.
Darkseid.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And the hooker lady's outside.
This is like, remember that video, Milk Malk?
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to kill myself.
Then we have a assassination attempt on Ozymandias, who we all know is the real
He beats the crap out
villain
of
of... Yeah, he kills this guy, and then he tries to make him not choke on the cyanide.
He gives him the cyanide.
But he gave him it, and then he still does it and kills himself, and he's like, oh, dang, my assistant died.
Oh, darn, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, call the toy people and cancel the extension of the Ozymandias sign. If they ask why, just tell them I don't have any enemies.
We cut back. And...
Lori spending the night.
Yep, Rorschach is the first instance of him calling his mask. His
face.
mask, his face.
Yeah.
Lori spending the night. She calls him a big brother. And
Brother
that
so-
noticeably makes him sad. And then he hugs the empty bed.
Hell and damnation. That's what he says.
That made me laugh so hard. More on, like you said, the lesbian lady, gay women against rape, wanting to put up the sign on the newspaper Bernie guy's thing.
Let me see the detectives again from... they were the ones who investigated the comedian, and now they're getting a tip about Rorschach. Rorschach.
Yeah, that's what the tipper says. But Rorschach is going to Moloch's apartment because he said to meet him there. There was a note in the trash can that said, "Meet me at 11:30 at my house." So he shows up, and Moloch's sitting there, and he's like, "All right, what you got for me?" And he goes to face him, and the guy's got a bullet hole right in his forehead. He's dead. And then the police are there because of the tipper. Told him to be there.
This is a really good scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
no. He's freaking out because the police are outside and he's surrounded.
I remember that scene in the movie.
Yep.
This shows just how dangerous Rorschach is.
He burns the whole house.
Yeah.
He burns the whole house by getting basically,
He
know,
throws
the-
pepper in that guy's
Yeah.
face.
pepper in
And-
the face.
Harpoon in the chest.
Yeah,
Harpoon
he
in the
shoots him
chest.
with the grapple gun.
And then he jumps out the window.
Did he die later? Or did he survive?
He was in critical condition, I believe.
Can't
Then he
remember if
lands,
died.
and then the police unmask him, and we see that he is the guy who was holding the Indus knife.
Except
He's
I
going to
didn't.
jail.
And as they take off the mask, he
I'm
goes,
going to jail.
"No, my face! Give it back! Give me back my face!"
Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the force of the night. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry?
William Blake.
I read that in high school.
Oh, he said that's so Gucci.
Yeah.
Did you read this? A man on
Yeah, we went
15
over
dead
this
men's
part
chest?
about EC Comics and the McCarthyism and all that stuff.
The art, how great the
I
art.
don't know how many of the creators mentioned in here are real, but I know Gil Kane is real, so these other guys could be real. So I'm not sure.
Interesting.
This is the alternate versions of them.
So now we have Rorschach in jail. He has a psychologist who is making him look at ink blots and telling him what he sees.
And he's saying the
Malcolm
cutesy.
what?
He's saying things that he doesn't really see.
What's the psychiatrist's name?
Malcolm
Long.
Yeah.
So yeah, he shows this ink blot and he's like, oh, it's a pretty butterfly. But what he really sees is a dog with its head carved down the middle.
Yep. This issue is called The Abyss Gazes.
Gosh,
also.
this scene is so... Oh my god.
So Rorschach, as a child, we get his origins. He walks in on his mom, who's a hooker, having sex. The guy gives her $5, and she gets mad at her son for interrupting and calls him a little shit and beats the shit out of him.
Yeah.
As you do.
I don't think anyone should.
Well, Walter, what do you make of it? He looks at it. He looks at another ink blot and says, "Some nice flowers." Basically saying everything the psychologist wants to hear. Back in the prison, everyone's pissed off at Rorschach because most likely he put him there in the
Most of
first
them are
place.
saying that they're going to kill him. Others want to rape him. It's
Yeah.
prison.
It is prison.
As you do. And
Then we see
Flashback to when he's a kid.
he's getting bullied. They call him a whoreson.
Right here, they smash a whole apple in his face.
Yeah.
Like, that would hurt.
And then he kicks
You know?
their freaking ass.
Yeah, he
burns
stabs
a cigarette in one of them's eye,
Yeah, he temporarily
stabs a
blinded him.
kid, bites a kid's face.
And then when they realize that, hey, this ain't a normal kid response,
Yeah, they removed him from the home, put him
Yeah.
in an orphanage.
a foster home. And he does pretty good. He's pretty intelligent in that. But we see before that, Malcolm goes home and is going over the case, and he's like, oh, I'm so optimistic about this. And his wife is like, oh, if anyone can do it, it's you. You're so good.
Now come have sex with me.
Yeah. So they go and have the smack.
This really does say
Yeah.
that.
It's just a funny thing to hear come out of your mouth. So, back in prison, it's Malcolm interviewing.
He brings up Rorschach. He wants to know
He
more
calls
about
him Walter, and then he says, "Don't you keep calling me Walter. I don't like you."
Yeah.
And he basically intimidates Malcolm, who Malcolm thought that Rorschach was completely different than he was.
Yeah.
So then the next part of Rorschach's
Origin is his mask.
Yeah, he goes to he works in textiles as just an unskilled laborer, and he makes this dress that looks like ink blocks for a woman, and
She never picked it up.
yeah, so he takes it, and this is when superheroes are still a thing, so he makes the mask and starts going
The
out.
mask, I want to talk about how it's made. It's like this, what do they call it? It's called some kind of liquid.
Reseal latex.
It's up here. Viscous fluids between two layers of latex.
Mm-hmm.
It's pressure
So that's
sensitive.
yeah, that's how they move around and stuff.
It's heat.
So I like how that's explained.
So yeah, the woman who ordered it gets raped, tortured, killed here in New York outside her own apartment building. Almost 40 neighbors heard screaming. Nobody did anything. Nobody called the cops. Some of them even watched. Do you understand? Some of them even watched. And so from that, he decides to... That's the moment I decided to put on the mask.
My face.
Yeah.
He's like, so that's when you became Rorschach. He said, no, I was not Rorschach then. I was young and stupid.
I was just dressed up. I was dressed up like Rorschach.
Yeah.
And he doesn't become Rorschach until the Keen Act.
So, like, when he was partners with Night Owl, he was, like, more upbeat and
He was
happy.
soft, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
that
what he
too.
calls himself.
He didn't kill people. Continue. Oh, I like this scene.
Oh,
This is
yeah,
the
this
most
is a
I've
great
seen
scene.
this scene.
Yeah, so we see Rorschach. He's getting his lunch. Some guy tries to come up to him. And
Shiv him with a screwdriver.
Yeah.
yeah,
Whatever that
Rorschach
throws
reaches
a
over.
pot of oil in his
Yeah.
face and burns the shit out of him.
The guards
died
come.
later.
The guards come after him. They hold him, and he's like, "You need to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me."
Thank you, Wyatt.
Good impression.
I'm the actor. I'm the actor of the group.
Yes. So now,
Yeah, here's where
That's
he
where he's
calls-
talking about how
he's like,
soft he used
very
to be.
soft.
That's when the Keen Act happened. You were
Yeah.
talking about when he killed that guy.
Yeah, that's his middle finger to the government.
Now he's telling him what he actually sees. When he sees his cards.
Now he's telling him what he actually sees, which is little girl's murdered. Rorschach investigates, sees that there is burnt panties in the guy's fireplace. He also sees the killing tools, and he looks outside and he sees the dogs playing with a bone.
Love and hate this scene at the same time.
Yep. And when he sees that, he understands that that is the child's bone.
Yeah.
He goes out and kills the dogs with a meat cleaver. Guy comes home, the guy who hurt the little girl gets home. He throws both dogs through the window. Not just once, he does twice.
Can you imagine how horrified you would be?
The guy gets hit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Blood everywhere.
My favorite thing is that Rorschach makes no comment about the little girl at all. And then the guy instantly knows why he's there and why he's attacking him. He knows what he did. So then Rorschach does what anybody in that situation was
He
do.
handcuffs him to
He
the
handcuffs
house and
him
burns it
to the
down.
house
And
lights it on fire and gives
hands-
him a thing to
a
cut his hand
hacksaw.
off.
He says it would take too long to cut through the handcuffs, so I mean, and you hear him screaming. I think he attempted to, but he
Yep.
didn't. He didn't get.
He didn't
far
make
enough.
it, and Rorschach just watched outside and said nobody got out. And that freaks Malcolm out. And
Yeah,
for
look
the
at
rest-
show Malcolm's face here when he's walked out.
yeah.
See this panel,
Oh,
that panel
the middle
there,
panel.
Very
just
happy.
he's completely. Then we see this is where Malcolm. This is when him and his wife separate because they're having dinner, and
They asked him about his work, and so he told him, like, oh, yeah, this guy told him about a girl who got kidnapped, so he... they butchered her and
no, she was
fed it to
6.
this dog.
Her
Fed it to
abductor
German
killed her.
shepherds. And then the couple that
They get
they're
up and
having
leave.
dinner with get up and leave because their daughter is home with the babysitter.
But they were being, like, very...
Yeah,
Funny about it, yeah.
Like, what do you
Uncomfortable.
expect when you're asking him about it? It's not gonna be good.
Battle not with monsters, lest ye become a monster. And
I
if you
re- I did
gaze
read this.
into the abyss gazes also into you. That's talking about Rorschach.
And
who's
that's,
staring at the doctor.
And that is Nietzsche.
Did you read the
I did read this
file
one.
on?
Yeah. It's basically his file on Rorschach. He's like, who's it written by? This is the police file.
Mhm.
It's basically just talks about what happened when they arrested him. And then it goes into his backstory, how he went to an orphanage for a long time after
They
he
have
beat up by
different
his kids.
essays
after
he
beating
did
up
when
the
he was
kids.
in school.
Yeah, go to the essays.
Yeah,
Um,
well, there's this picture.
That he had a dream about that guy and his mom having sex, and it was like a weird nightmare where they were actually joined together and their faces were together and chasing him, and it freaked him out. He was like 13 at the time, and this one he's just writing about his mom and how he doesn't like her, and
yeah, one of the things that goes over
he
in
wishes
the,
he knew his dad.
Yeah, one of the things that goes over is how when they tell him that his mom gets killed, the only thing he says is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I can't blame him.
Yeah.
It's pretty shitty.
Yep.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. We are back with.
Is this the good chapter?
I think this is the good chapter.
I don't think so, not yet.
Is it not?
No.
Okay.
He's finding her. She discovers the Owlman cave, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His costume.
The nest.
His Owlmobile.
She,
A brother to dragons. This references
Archie.
the Bible also
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, it's called A Brother
Yeah.
to Dragons.
She almost burns down
Yeah,
the cave.
Lori almost
Archie
burns down the cave.
She was looking for the cigarette lighter, and
Yeah,
she
she
presses
hit the
the button for the flamethrower, and then she gets really freaked out after because he's like, "Oh yeah, the air-to-air missiles are right next to that button."
They start talking about how everybody, all their teammates, keep getting put away, exiled, comedian's dead. Rorschach's now in jail. Basically, all that stuff.
Dan has a picture of this female villain.
The Twilight Lady.
Yeah, he
It's like his Catwoman.
Yeah, he used to bang her, and that's why he couldn't get it up. Or later on, he wasn't in costume. Because remember, in one of these reports or something, they talk about how the superheroes were kinky too. They were kinky Nazis. Like this was in Hollis's book.
Yeah.
This really made me think of The Boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did too.
I was just thinking of
It's
Billy
like
Butcher
that.
just killing them all. continuing, just looking around the cave.
He's just showing her all his gadgets.
Showing her
and
all the
stuff.
gadgets, how stuff works.
He
how
has a lot of cool
when she puts
stuff.
on the glasses, she can see it at night and see everything clearly.
Yeah, he turns off all the lights.
They do an interview with the landlady at Rorschach's apartment, and she's like, "Oh, he tried to proposition with me with sex a lot," which later we learn was
he
not
confronts
true.
her about that.
Yeah, he's
Not true.
actually.
Was she a hooker?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure? I thought it meant I thought that's what it meant. Like, he never propositioned her. She was just like a hooker and putting herself out there.
Probably.
I don't know about that.
That would make sense to me. So Dan and Lori are watching the news, and we see.
And they kiss.
Yeah, we see.
No kiss.
Yes.
Before that, we see another. This is World War III about to happen. Russia's pushing more into Afghanistan. They're getting close to Pakistan, and Pakistan wants the U.S. to intervene.
That Max Shea guy disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he the writer of the Black Freighter comic?
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah. The Dimension place is mentioned. I think that was the first time it was mentioned, right?
Might be, yeah.
And then we have
No kiss.
them kissing.
And then after that,
Then they
And
try
then-
to do it, and they get all naked and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he can't get it up.
My favorite part is now it's talking about Ozymandias and his maneuvers and stuff while it's doing this. Ooh, just listen to the crowd.
you
A
just see.
perfect dismount.
You just
and
see.
all that
You
stuff.
just see.
I
Ozymandias.
appreciated that. We see boobies. Keep going. Nothing
We see
happens because he
boobies.
Yeah,
can't
you do
get it
see
up.
boobies.
Nothing happens because he can't get it up. So then she's like, "It's okay. We'll just sleep now."
And
Then
then he has
a
dream.
vision of nuclear war, and them in costume, and her as the lady.
His Catwoman.
Yep. So then he goes back down, looks at his costume, puts it on, and they decide, "Hey, one last ride. Let's go ride around in our."
I love him naked with the goggles.
That just made me
It's
uncomfortable.
just so funny.
It's like I've looked at too many asses
That's-
for
that's-
this whole comic.
That's just like a naked dude in socks.
I
to
know.
me.
So
You can't take him seriously at all.
they decide to take a joyride in Archie, which is their, as I said, their little flying machine guy person. Basically,
And there's a tenant fire.
and there's a fire. They decide, ooh, we can be heroes. Let's save them.
be heroes.
So
And
they
they
do,
And they serve coffee.
and they serve them coffee. So they fly through, and then what happens? Well, Hallelujah starts playing in the movie. No, Hallelujah plays. I heard they
Hallelujah.
played a secret.
Oh, I thought it was the different Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So then, no. So then they make love.
And
in
she's
the
like, was
thing.
it the costumes? He's like, yeah, I think so.
And then we get another verse at the end. I am brother to dragons, a companion to owls. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat.
That's from Job.
I'm not gonna lie.
Chapter 30.
I did not read this one.
Did you read this one?
Oh, this one? This is just an essay by him published in
Yeah.
an ornithology journal.
Yeah, about birds.
Yeah, about owls. And he's just like, he talked about how he used to like read books about them and like collect information and stuff about owls. And it was just a hobby, but he wasn't like into it, you know? Like he didn't like feel any joy from it. And then he's like, but one day I was out in a parking lot after I visited a friend and I heard this owl screeching and it was like trying to attack something, and he's like, I stopped in my tracks and I thought I was the prey. And then when it grabbed the mouse or whatever it wanted, it flew away, and he was like, and then I and all of the other critters of the grass were relieved because that screech wasn't meant for us and stuff like that. So he really likes owls.
Yeah, here's the sad mad issue.
Yeah.
Chapter 8.
This is when Hollis gets killed.
So this is the end of last.
It's Halloween night, by
yeah.
the way.
In the end of the last issue, Dan says, "You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go spring Rorschach." And Lori's like, "Wait, what? Hold up a minute." But
This is
the-
a great issue. And
This
also,
is a really good
there's
issue.
an issue like this in Doomsday Clock too.
Ooh,
A prison breakout, so you'll like that.
does a beloved, wholesome character get killed in that one too?
This is called Old
I don't think
Ghost.
so.
Okay, good.
What are you talking about?
So yeah, we see Hollis is on the phone with Sally, and he's like, "Yeah, I might get on my old costume just and go
Oh,
trick
yeah,
or
I like
treating."
that call.
Yeah.
That was cool.
More about Bernie. More about them talking about getting Rorschach out. and looking
They're
at
an item now.
and they were looking at the pyramid deliveries companies and different jobs and how all these people with cancer were related.
Yeah, they don't think that John actually gave him cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, she doesn't have cancer.
And they know that
Exactly.
Rorschach had dug into a lot of this, so they need to break him out and figure out what he knows as well. So, that's the plan. We get the little midget guy. I don't remember what his name
Big
is.
figure.
Is that what his name is?
Yep.
Big Figure?
Yep.
Big figure,
Small
world.
He basically wants revenge on Rorschach for... we don't know.
He keeps roasting him. Rorschach, this is
Tall
tall
order.
order.
He doesn't even get mad.
Yeah.
This one of his bodyguards get mad when he makes a fat joke though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically he knows that they're gunning for him. They're going to try to kill him.
This guy's fixing another lock again.
The detective comes in and he has...
Did you notice
yeah.
that this is the Gordian Knot Lock Company? I did not
I did
notice
not. Holy
that.
crap.
Oh.
Dadgum, this book.
Oh no.
Anyways,
It's like a treasure hunt.
the detective
Where's
comes
Waldo?
and he's on to Dan. He pretty much knows that he is
Night Owl.
Night Owl, and he's wanting to check his basement where he keeps all of his Owlman stuff, and he's like, oh, it's locked, and he's like, oh, well, it's a lumber room, and I
Trying to
lost my
spook him.
key, and he's trying to spook him, basically, and saying, hey, don't get involved, basically.
Don't you break Rorschach now.
take
I
care
know.
now.
You take care. Don't you do it. Oh, you
Dan's like,
scamp,
we have
you
to move
did it.
fast. They're
Yeah, we have
anticipating us.
a deadline now, so then...
We see the frontiersman editoring
Oh,
stuff.
being
like-
mean to the intern.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, go get me a real American burger.
Yeah.
What was this stuff about with
This is the
This is the
artists on
island.
the island.
Mm-hmm.
The different like poets and scientists and stuff, and she's drawing.
I didn't understand
the
any of the
monster.
stuff on the island, honestly.
Yeah.
We don't see much of it.
They're fueling
you
Archie. We see the Hollis doing the carving of a pumpkin.
Suki, you eating up there?
Why did the guys decide to go kill Hollis again?
Because Night Owl breaks out.
They heard Night Owl was breaking them out, so they thought it was him.
Okay, that's why it was. Okay, I was wondering. This is
This
my
is
favorite. This is a
awesome.
great scene. So they're sitting there and they're
The
basically
prison
power's
has
shut
a
down.
riot.
Prison
and
has a
that's
riot.
the
They're trying to go kill Rorschach now. And
They have a welder. They're gonna burn through. The fat guy puts his arms through after Rorschach. It
Provokes
says
him,
he says
basically.
fat chance. The
He
dude.
ties his pinkies together.
he ties
Yeah.
his pinkies together, and then the little midget man says we have to kill him so we can get through it. So they just kill the guy,
I love
kill the fat guy.
Rorschach says 1-0. Your move.
Yeah, he does that later on too. So finally, they come in Archie. They make a sound wave to get through. We see Rorschach again. He kills another one of the henchmen by him busting the toilet and then getting shocked by the tools they used to even carve in. Midget Man says, "Oh shit, better run away because now my henchmen are down."
so great.
So we see Night Owl and Silk Spectre. They're coming through the prison trying to look for
Lori.
Rorschach. Yes,
Silk Shadow.
she's
Is
Silk
it-
Shadow.
Silk Spectre.
It
She's
is
still
Silk
Silk
Spectre.
Spectre. That's why I was wondering why you kept correcting me. Anyways, so why are you booing me? I'm right.
Yeah. My B.
So they are looking, and there's a bunch of people on the
For
ground.
some reason, there's a random men's room in a prison. Why is that?
I love
the
it
cops.
though. I love it though.
So the little midget man, runs into the bathroom. Night Owl sees Rorschach, and they're like, "Hey, wait up!" And he's like,
have to
"Sorry,
use the bathroom."
have to take leak." And I liked the conversation that they had. They're like, you know, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta go.
Happened to me one time.
Yeah, he was like, it happened to me one time. I missed the whole thing.
Of this.
So he kills him, and we see the blood drain out. In the motion comic, you actually see the blood like drain out.
Oh, yeah.
So that was cool. So he
And they
killed the
fly
midget
away.
man, and then they fly away.
So they
And
go
then-
back to the Night Owl nest, and
Laurie's
they're-
changing, and then John just pops up out of nowhere.
yeah, he naked.
He said, "You wanted to have a conversation with me." They disappear and go to Mars. He takes her to Mars. And
This is the first man in the room for Watchmen.
And the
Sure.
police raid his house.
Yeah, the police raid
they
his
get out of
house,
there.
so they are trapped basically, so they escape. And I believe after this... Oh, this is where they learn of the breakout and they go and kill
And
Hollis.
we see this. I don't know if we've seen it mentioned, but the nostalgia line of
perfume by
cosmetics. Yeah.
Yep.
So... Oh, they go and kill Hollis. What part I like about them killing Hollis is he gets all these backgrounds. He has all these memories of him actually, like, whooping people's ass.
Yeah. It was sad. And then they beat him to death with his own trophy.
They kill his dog. He's just an old man. It's so sad because they're
They
busting.
killed the dog first, didn't they?
They're knocking on the door, and he's like, "Yeah, "Okay, I hear you. You can quit
Here's
banging.
your candy.
Here's your
Yep.
candy." And they bust in. He's just a poor old man. They kill his dog.
Here's
and-
them killing the dog. In the background with a chain.
Oh, yeah.
Then he's imagining him kicking ass when he was a young man. And then the Halloween kids come in and they're
Yeah.
like, Mr. Mason?
How would
And
you like
he's
to go
dead.
trick-or-treating as a kid and see that?
Mhm. That kid's gonna become the next Rorschach.
And the quote of this one is, on Halloween, the old ghosts come about us. They speak to some, to others they are dumb. Halloween by Eleanor Ferguson.
And then we see
New
the
Frontiersman.
New Frontiersman. Honor is like the hawk. Sometimes it must go hooded. This is their issue about.
This is where they start talking about how the Klan was, had good intentions and stuff, and I was like, okay. I do like the, what do you call these?
Political cartoons.
Yeah. They got one of those in here. I think it's cool. I'm trying to remember if there's anything actually worth talking about in this. They mentioned the missing rider in here.
That's a great name for a newspaper. New Frontiersman.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
And chapter 9 has the nostalgia bottle on it,
Mm-hmm.
which Laurie carries
And
with her.
that's in a lot of panels. This issue is called The Darkness of Mere Being.
Yeah, if you watch the ChimiCulture cast with me and Tanner, I talk about the man in the room in games. This book has two men in rooms where that character tries to convince them of something, and in this issue, issue 10, Dr. Manhattan is the man in the room, and Laurie is convincing him to intervene and stop World War III.
Yeah, and we kind of see what Riley was talking about with him being so far out of touch of what humanity actually is, and he doesn't even realize that Laurie can't breathe on Mars.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, slipped my mind. Sorry about that. And they hop in his little palace and fly around, and he shows her around the planet, and he's debating on how pointless life is, and there's no future, no past, nothing really matters.
And then he's like, when you went with Dan, like, you were my only connection to this
Yep.
world, so
Yep.
why would I want to go back now?
yeah, why would I care?
Yeah, he says that.
It's
He's
just like Superman.
He says, I know that you slept with Dan. You're going to tell me here in like a couple of minutes. And she's like, wait, you already know? And then when she tells him, she just lets it slip out in conversation because she's like, oh, he already knows.
Then-
He gets really mad.
He explains to her that, you can view time past or present however you want, and she thinks about a flashback from her past when her parents are arguing, and her dad yells at her, and she breaks the snow globe and stuff.
Yep.
And she says that he yelled at her because that's not her real father.
Yeah.
Yep. They fly around in his little palace thing.
I like how he described every rock formation on the planet and was like, "Hey, there's that, and there's that." And they're flying around.
I would love to ride around and see Olympus Mons with Dr. Manhattan. I'm not gonna lie,
We
that'd
see
be really cool.
young Hollis and young Captain Metropolis, and he's asking her if he read his book, which we learned about earlier in the thing. Who is this guy, by the way?
That's the Mothman. He started like going crazy, losing his mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They had to put him in a home or asylum.
She
I
asks
think.
for water, and he just creates it.
Yeah. What do you want to be in the bottle?
Yeah, water,
Water.
plain water. Then
Okay.
milk. All right, here you go.
Blue
Yeah.
milk.
Yeah, if it comes
we
from Dr.
see-
Manhattan's teat.
Flashback to
Flashback to
meeting the
her
comedian.
first meeting the comedian. Her butt is hanging out of
Yeah, I
that
know.
dress. Anyways. That's my girl.
yeah, right.
he's looking at her and he's like, "Oh, you don't look like her that much." And then finally, her mom comes and she's like, "You take her hands off of her, you bastard!"
You mean
And she's crying
You take
all the
her
way home.
hands off of her.
Yeah, take your hands off her, you bastard. And
Anyway,
and then she cries in the car on the way home.
And tells the story of her almost getting raped by a comedian, but
Yeah.
and even now that I know, they could have the same exact hair color, pretty much. The comedian is her father, so years after that attempted rape, she was apparently with him, and at the end of the book, she is crying, and she kisses a photo of all the Minutemen together, and she kisses him on the picture, so...
Yeah, so then more of him explaining what Mars looks like, how he sees the world, and then we have this banquet that they're having for the comedian, kind of like a celebration of him and all the things he's done good for
She's super
America.
drunk.
And she is super drunk because she hates his guts.
She said she had 7 scotches in her.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then
she
she
throws the
basically
8 when-
gets the drunk confidence to go up to him and yell at him for basically raping her mother. And she throws her scotch in his face. And yeah. One of the best lines right here, though, is, what kind of man are you? You have to take some woman. You have to force her into having sex against her will. And he said, only once.
Yeah, because, I mean, she had sex with him later.
Yes. And then John took her home after that part.
In the flashback, not
Well,
for
it
Mars.
comes in the next one.
So she's going on...
it just keeps echoing those
It
words.
keeps
only
echoing.
once.
Yeah, it keeps.
This is when she
echoing stuff.
realizes... She's realizing...
She
that-
realizes that
Yeah.
he's her dad,
And she breaks down.
and she breaks down and breaks the little nostalgia bottle as well.
And she
And,
throws
yeah.
something, and it causes the entire glass palace to shatter. And the entire time, she's also been trying to convince Manhattan that life matters and all. And he's just like, oh, well, I mean, here's Olympus Mons. I mean, what's your counter argument to that?
Yep.
And then he realizes, oh, well, yeah, you're right. Life does have meaning.
Yeah, and he told her way before this. He said, "This is gonna end in you crying." She's like, "No, it won't," and it does. She cries. And then
There's a smiley face on
there's
the
a big
planet.
smiley face on Mars, and he realizes that life isn't so meaningless, basically, and he changed his mind and decides to come back.
He also talks about like how like the universe decided that this sperm would create your mom
Yep.
and the comedian. He would try to rape her.
Yep.
Then they would be apart, and then they would somehow like each other again. Then have you, and then you would be here with me.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, miracles are a real thing.
The quote for this one is, "As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being." C.J. Jung, Memories, Dreams, Reflections.
Then we got some newspaper clippings of Sally Jupiter. And between her husband and this guy named King Taylor, he's trying to make a movie about her, which doesn't turn out very well.
Yeah.
We also have Nelson Gardner, Captain Metropolis, his original proposal to her to be on a team with him, just in a letter.
And she's like, are you kidding, Larry?
Your costume comrade in the campaign against crime, Captain Metropolis. And also here, here's a letter from Larry. Let's see. I think this is when. This is before they're married, and he says that, hey, the costume hero thing's kind of dying off. Would you like to be partners? And then he says, this is the nearest thing I ever got to a proposal.
And then we have the review of her movie.
It was very bad.
Yeah.
Yes. The guy said it was like a porno, but not even as good as one.
Yeah. They didn't even have the meme scenes. This isn't a pool, this is a bathtub.
Let's see. So this is where I was talking about how HJ was implied to be gay, along with another one. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't say it in there, but I'm pretty sure it said it somewhere back there. Yeah, it was his letter to her. It said HJ and Nelson were acting like an old married couple, he said. And it's hard to come up with a steady alibi for them.
They boning.
Think so.
I love the cover of this. This is
DEFCON 2.
Yep.
That's
It's
cool.
radar. The opening, we see Air Force One arrive.
2 riders were approaching.
Yeah.
That's Night Owl and Rorschach later.
Mm. The Air Force One comes in Nixon, who is very old at this point. I'm pretty sure in this timeline, doesn't Nixon get to serve that third term?
I think he might get reelected.
But he's
at
got the
end.
football in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like after everything happened, I think he might.
yeah, Watergate probably didn't happen in this one. Comedian
Yeah.
probably killed him.
They visit Rorschach's apartment after
Yeah, they're
this
trying
to
to
get
get
his
his
mask
costume.
and costume.
Yeah,
And
he's
he
back
sees
up.
that woman that badmouthed him on TV, and he's about to punch her, but Night Owl's just like, hey,
See,
man,
this
leave
is why
it.
I thought that. He said, "How much did they pay you to lie about me, whore?" And she said, "Oh, please don't say that. Not in front of my kids.
Oh,
please,
yeah.
they don't
Yeah,
know."
she might be.
That's why I said
Okay.
that she doesn't know. I
Yeah.
thought she was a whore.
You're right.
And I thought that's why he said, "Oh." They
So
can
far,
pay
she's
you.
not as bad as Rorschach's mother, because
True.
at least the kids don't know.
Yeah. There's that. Then we get a shot of Adrian's palace temple thing in Antarctica and his 3 Vietnamese servants
Also a little weird.
who are very enthusiastic.
Nah, I liked it.
That's very weird.
No, I mean, it just reminded me of Wonder Twins for some reason. Their costumes.
yeah,
yeah.
you see
Yeah, I was
it.
like, oh, he just
I
has a
see
bunch
that.
of Wonder Twins people.
Yeah, I see that. And here's the scene with all the different TVs he's looking
This
I
is,
at.
like- I
this
like
is when
his
I-
costume.
He also has a,
Ozymandias,
Yeah.
he
it's
also
so
has
cool.
a
It's like
freaking
Egyptian.
cat.
Yeah.
Evil people have big bunch of
Big fluffy
screens
cat.
and cats. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this
Yeah.
one under the possible subjects list. This issue has a lot. This is the ending of the pirate story too.
Oh, Rorschach goes back to the bar.
Back to the bar, yeah, interrogate
Oh,
people.
God. Yeah, he's
He breaks a
everyone
bottle in the guy's hand and then holds
immediately.
his bottle in the glass, his hand in the glass.
Wait, let me see here. He says somebody knew Roy Chess, somebody hired him. Don't worry, won't insult legendary underworld solidarity by suggesting you surrender name without torture. Everyone looks at this one dude whose back is turned, and he's like, "I bought your dreams."
What kind of town is this?
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's another shot of the island again. And yeah,
This
you're
is-
right. That is their freighter, I think.
That's
Yep.
the Black Freighter.
Yeah.
All the artists and stuff are
cool.
going on this huge freighter, and they're supposed to be
He
leaving.
mentioned that. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that.
they thought the whole time they thought they were working on a movie that had dubious legal stuff because they used a real brain for this special effect, is what they think. But you see a dude with his lady friend are ducking off to have some smacks, and he's like, "What
He
is
sees the
this?"
bomb.
Yeah, he uncovers a bomb, and he's like, "Oh, nothing's wrong. Hold me."
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
So that's Ozymandias
Covering his tracks.
tying up loose ends.
Mm-hmm. Boom.
And I wonder if this beach is the same as the beach from the pirate.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I thought it was.
I think it is.
I mean, it
probably.
could be.
It probably is.
I thought it was. But, yeah. Then they're investigating his little office, it looks like.
This is when they get the big
I love
reveal.
how Rorschach just does not see it at all. He does not suspect Adrian one bit, being the smartest man in the world.
Yep. And then the password Ramses.
Ramses the second, yeah. Night Owl's trying to hack into the computer. He gets it. He's like, "Oh shit!
Yeah, he's like, Rorschach said, "Oh,
Here's the files.
The
It's
entire
Adrian."
the entire time he's hacking, Rorschach is just going on and on and on and on and on, and Night Owl's not saying anything. But then he's just like, "Oh, dude, you bet would have come."
But Vite was the target." He's just looking through papers. He doesn't have much to say about that.
Then we have another section of
Rorschach's
Rorschach's
final
journal.
entry before he mails it to the New Frontiersman. I love the newsroom guy's response. He's just like, throw that on the shit pile, man.
Yeah.
We've got other stuff to print out.
World War III is about to happen. This is he's basically J. Jonah Jameson. That's
Yeah.
how I read him.
I mean, he's right though.
He's
Yeah.
right wing.
Don't boo him. He's right.
He's not left. He's right. So, Night Owl and Rorschach, they're going to Antarctica. They fly the Archie there. The engines fail and they land like 20 miles out. So they
But
have
don't
to get
worry.
on those hover bikes.
I
Go the rest
love
of the
I
way.
love the show The Venture Bros, and I also love the old Johnny Quest show.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all this stuff is straight out of that, and I
Yeah.
love it.
I love his freaking
his snowsuit.
It looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it looked really dumb. But I thought, I was like, oh, is that the inspiration for the Court of Owls?
Ooh.
It looks just like it.
Good pull.
For the what?
Court of Owls.
Yeah.
Outside in the distance, a wild cat did growl. 2 riders were approaching. The wind began to howl. So that's pretty much what's happening here. Bob Dylan. And this is just some of the papers they gathered.
I
from his
read that
desk.
one.
Yeah. One's about figures.
Yeah, they want to use Night Owl and Moloch
And
figures.
he's like, I don't know if that would work, but maybe we could do some terrorists instead because that sells during times of war
Yeah.
and stuff.
I love this picture. This is like their prototype
That's cool.
action figures, and they have a full-on replica of the owl ship, Archie.
And then he's going to change the nostalgia perfume to Millennium because he wants it to reflect the Millennium pretty much.
This new future utopia that he's gonna make.
Yeah. And here is like the Vite method that you see on the back of that comic the kid's reading every time. Did you notice that? It's just how to get a hold of your mind, your body, and make it work for you. So yeah, it's just a copy of what they would mail to someone if they subscribe to it. Okay, breathe. Chapter 11. I love the way this opens up, but it was kind of hard for me to read. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it was a bit.
There was a lot of white, and I was having trouble like seeing the words.
I did the motion comics, so I couldn't tell you.
I thought you quit the motion comic and then started reading again.
Well, like
I did.
this whole comic
Like
is
midway through.
it's
I
mostly
told you I
dark.
had 2 more issues today.
most
Yeah.
of the comic is dark, so the bubbles contrast with that, and this just kind of tripped me out. But I like how he's talking about how, but the picture starts to come a little bit clearer, and then you see more of the
Terrarium.
yeah. Look
This-
on my works, ye mighty.
He's going on to his
We're on issue
Vietnamese.
12 for some reason. I don't know why.
That's 11.
We open up. He's still looking at.
Here's Rorschach eating that sugar
Yeah.
cube.
Yeah, I know.
Raunch, raunch, raunch.
Munch munch.
It's raunch. Because it's
Sorry.
Rorschach. It has to be raunch.
What's a sugar cube?
You gotta raunch it.
And he's like, well, while they're on their way, let's go do
He's-
a couple more things. And there's that Alexander cutting the knot.
Yeah, I just sent that to Riley when I saw it. I was like, he has a big mural of Alexander the Great cutting the accordion knot. That's some imagery.
Yeah.
And this was before he went on about how influenced by Alexander he was.
Yep.
Here's him pressing the button to send that alien.
Yeah, this
I
is
didn't
the
even notice it the first time.
when that happened, that looked like the test chamber that turned Dr. Manhattan into Dr. Manhattan. I thought that's what he was attempting to do. He was attempting to turn himself into an all-powerful being like that.
Okay.
That's what my original thought. Nazi zombies.
yeah.
Yeah, story time. I was on the phone with Riley once when they were when they were playing. He was playing Black Ops Zombies, and when you fail, they have that laugh, and his mom laughed, and I thought that was the laugh from Nazi Zombies.
Hey, if you've made it this far into the video, comment below Toilet Toad. Just let us know that
Let
you've
us
made
know.
it.
Yeah,
Toilet Toad.
Yeah. All right.
it's not gonna
Send
happen.
Riley pictures of Toilet Toads.
Here's a frog.
Not a toad.
Sorry. Doesn't count.
So then we have him.
And then Adrian like freaking it's going over his whole thing where he's like, oh, I was a brilliant child, but my parents weren't that smart. I don't know how I was smart, but they died when I was 17, so I was left with a pretty good inheritance. But I wanted to prove that I could get money on my own, so I gave it all away. Then he goes on this whole, like, finding yourself journey around the world.
He takes the route Alexander the Great did on his conquest.
And
then he did drugs in the desert in Egypt.
Yes, he did, and took all his clothes off.
Yeah. As you do.
As you do. But yeah, he really likes Alexander. And then he later...
I mean, you can't blame him. Alexander the Great's pretty
he kind of
great.
looks just like him, too, in the comic.
Yeah. And he later, like, also is like, hey, but Ramses the Second, he was the real dude, you know? Like...
He was the real Slim Shady.
He's like, I'll be Alexander for a while, but then I'm going to be Ramses. And then he kills his servants because he's talking about how, like, the Egyptians used to bury their servants alive with them in their tombs.
That's why he did this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I thought he was just still clearing up loose ends.
He is.
Okay.
But that's also what that's referring to.
So, yeah.
He drugs them, and then the whole terrarium opens up, and the snowstorm comes in and buries them. There's him naked. Look at that.
He's
movie.
like, I did say. Where is it
Gibbons
from?
likes to draw square butts for some reason. Have you noticed that?
Your ass is square.
Didn't he get? He got this.
Wait a minute.
Where did he get it from?
Telling me your ass
The
is
what?
square?
Hashish?
Yeah.
He got it from Tibet.
Yeah, he got it from Tibet and took it all the way to
That's
Egypt.
good shit. Homie.
Yeah,
Like, that hashish.
that shit'll make you speak to God.
Those visions, man. He heard fanfares sound through human skulls. That's what he said.
You ever been tripped that high, Tanner?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's the stuff you gotta lick a toe like that.
No comment.
That drug frog.
We forgot to mention how messed up Malcolm was after talking to Rorschach. When he actually let loose and told him what he saw on those cards, you saw his face. It really affected him, and he was just like rethinking life, like what is life right now? And his wife is just like, all right, if you're gonna let your work get to you like this, I'm leaving, and she leaves.
What a bitch.
Well, now she meets him on the street again. She's like, I want to come back, but you gotta promise to clean up your act and
Clean
stuff.
up your
She
act and
tells
start
him
seeing
to-
better people.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, she says, quit your entire career.
Be like a civilian doctor or
Yeah.
something.
A counselor, school counselor.
Yeah, school counselor. That's more safe. So Night Owl and Rorschach, they're entering Adrian's mansion thing. They're looking for him.
They're
and
talking
then
about
he's eating dinner. Right
before that. They,
Rorschach is just coming for him.
no, listen. Before this, they're talking about. Dan still thinks it's Adrian. We know him. He's not the villain.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Rorschach is coming for him.
They say that Adrian isn't the villain. That's what Dan says. He's a vegetarian, and Rorschach goes, Hitler was a vegetarian.
If it's a problem, let me handle it.
Yeah. He says, don't worry, I'll handle it.
Goes in chokehold. So then Ozymandias
I love he
obviously,
stabs his sleeve into
stabs
the table
him.
and backhands him.
yeah, with a fork, and then backhands him, and then
Captain America.
Dan, no, he blocks it with his shield. He blocks the laser with
Then
his
he
shield,
throws
then
it.
throws it at his nose. So he basically knocks out both of them and
He's like,
keeps them
now,
both
what can I do
immobile.
for you? As he pours a glass of wine.
Yep. Yep.
Super cool.
So he goes in and starts explaining things, and Rorschach tries to get him again.
And the comedian.
Yeah, he's talking about how
And he
the
kicks his ass
comedian
again.
found him out.
Yeah.
Poor Rorschach.
So in the motion comic, you can like actually see like Rorschach like pulling it
Oh,
out and then coming behind him, and then you just see him boom while still explaining like his plot. It's awesome. God, that was good.
Yeah, he's basically.
So
telling his
wait,
whole
question
plan.
for you guys:
Okay.
did comedian know about?
Yeah,
Ozymandias'
he found
plan?
out
Yeah,
the
he
plan.
knew the plan.
Okay.
yeah.
And he knew that, holy crap, this will work, so I can't
That's why
really...
he killed him.
Yeah, I can't talk about it, but...
Yeah. He knew it would work. Okay, that's what I thought I got it, but I just wanted to make sure.
That's why he was like tripping out so much at Moloch's house.
Yeah, I did.
Because
I
he
just,
knew the plan.
I couldn't figure out how he figured out the plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, by now, Rorschach and Night Owl know that they can't do jack, so they're just following him as he explains everything.
Yeah. and he's talking about like the whole, U.S. versus Russia war, them trying to outdo each other with nukes. He's like, it's not helping the world.
I'm playing with my pussy.
Wow, dude. Wow.
I'm
my
playing with your pussy too.
But
Riley, get in here.
Ow, 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 ow,
good. That's what you get.
Called me.
Good.
girl, Susie.
Fuck.
But he's saying like, think of all the good we could be doing in the world if we weren't spending so much money on nukes. It's a good point. It's a good point. So that's why he's trying to remake the world, basically. And I love his like gallery here of objects. I'm pretty sure this might be the actual cart that was in the painting with Alexander.
Ben-Hur. It's a prop from Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur. Did you guys see that movie?
Yeah, it's a great movie, man.
It's pretty good.
Are we talking the
It
remake
flopped,
original?
though. No, the remake. Is
Yeah,
what
I
I
like
was
the
talking
original.
about. I haven't seen the original.
It's a classic.
Let's see. But yeah, there's a big commotion going on between the gay cabbie and her girlfriend. They're having a fight, and then Malcolm tries to stop it. His wife is mad at him for interfering.
And this is in front
This
of
is
the
all the
newspaper.
side
the
characters.
two detectives run in to try to stop the assault.
The newspaper stand dudes are there, and while this is happening, the newspaper stand owner asks him his name because he's like, "I bought this when my wife died just to make friends because all her friends didn't want
My name's
anything to do with
Bernie.
me."
As in Bernard? That's my name. He's like, I don't give a crap, man.
Yeah.
People have the same
And we
name.
see Ozymandias killed the comedian.
And then he's like, so when were you planning to do this? He tells them that he was going to make an alien.
I feel like this is the most iconic scene in the whole book.
He's going to make an alien, right? He cloned a psychic's brain?
You stop loving me now. Claw the shit out of me.
So he used it to make a big alien creature. And he also got all of those poets and artists and writers to think of like the most crazy alien things they could, right? And they poured it all into this alien's mind. And so now he's sending this giant ass monster to New York
And when it arrives,
with the teleportation technology, which isn't perfect because sometimes it makes stuff blow up, but he doesn't care because when it blows up, it's gonna set off a psychic bomb.
and it's gonna kill half of New York.
Yeah, at least.
And when this happens, anyone who is slightly attuned to psychic stuff is
Worldwide.
worldwide is gonna get bad dreams. And
Yeah.
he's the main thing. His plan is to make people think that an alien or some dimensional threat shows up, and that's gonna be a common enemy, and the Russia and the U.S. is gonna join together.
The war will end, and they will join together as the Earth Force.
Yeah.
Question: why couldn't Ozymandias include Dr. Manhattan on this?
He said it was too much of a variable. He couldn't
Yeah.
predict Dr. Manhattan, so he just went ahead and removed him.
He's too powerful, and he
Okay.
didn't want him on the board.
Well, yeah, that was my thing. Like, why couldn't Dr. Manhattan teleport a shit ton of people away, and then they drop it, and then they
Because those
say
people are-
those people died when really they
Because
did.
what-
Adrian doesn't care.
And
Yeah,
what happens to those people anyway when they show up and they're alive?
What do you mean?
Well, if you teleport all of them away and say they die, you've still got 500,000 people or millions of people that are alive. So,
He's a genius. He figured it out.
But Adrian still
Okay.
wanted people to die as a sacrifice, so that this will
yeah.
have more of an impact.
Yeah, when I love the part when Adrian is like, "Oh, you thought I would go on this whole villain monologue if you had a chance to stop it?" It reminds me of like in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Kevin Spacey is talking to the UN, and he's like, "So there's been allegations that I've made a bioweapon capable of targeting specific ethnic groups. I want to meet these allegations head on. Are we developing such a weapon? No, we are not, because we've already developed it."
And also, I like young boys.
Jeez.
Yeah. There's a nice middle school right down the street.
Here's the quote. The
what
bomb
Kevin
just
Spacey
went off.
said.
The screen is white. And it says, "My
The-
name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair."
And that's a quote from the Ozymandias poem. And we see the Bernards hug as the world ends.
You'll see it later too.
It gets
This is
imprinted.
Here's the
Forbes.
interview with Vite.
I read this because on
was fun.
my phone I was so glad that it wasn't a full thing, so
Yeah,
I
you
could just
could
zoom
scroll
in
down
and
the
just scroll and
column,
read.
yeah.
So that didn't just
Yeah.
hurt me.
But it just basically tells more of his story about how he is very intelligent and how he like conditioned himself physically and mentally. And when the guy got there to interview him, he was doing his acrobat thing in the gym and stuff.
And we see an ad for
Nostalgia.
the times they are a-changing.
Did your book have these clock pages?
Yes.
All right, the blood is slowly pouring down each issue,
And the times change.
which I like.
Getting closer to midnight.
Yes. The
Then we
doomsday
see
clock.
just a full-on...
Here's the
Everyone's
carnage. It's several pages of dead people,
Dead.
and you can notice some of the the side characters that died. We've got maybe it's not that page. That's the concert, but you can see the tentacles of this monster.
In the motion comic, it just kind of pans.
Yeah.
It's just one continuous
I,
pan.
I spent like a little bit looking
for
at
the
these
side
pages.
characters.
The two gay women, the Malcolm and his wife. I think that's the lock guy. This is
The other
that might be the guy in the bar that Rorschach crushed the glass in his hand. I think. And there's Bernard hugging Bernard on the ground there. That's very sad. There's the monster. It's a very creepy looking monster. But John and Laurie are both there. They teleported there. And Laurie just like, get me out of here. This is really crazy.
Yeah, and John is still having trouble seeing the future. And he at first thought that it was because of warhead detonations. But it's actually, he realizes it's tachyon energy. And he traces it to the Antarctic.
It doesn't do it on y'all's. In the motion comic, it had him standing in front of that silhouette. And then it flashed, and then it was the silhouette of them
Yeah.
Okay.
doing that pose.
Lori
that exact pose.
is, of course, devastated and freaking out, and she's just like, take me away from here, just I don't care where. And he's like, oh yeah, we'll go to Antarctica. He's completely calm about the entire
Yes.
thing. So they teleport.
Oh, but when the plan was about to happen, they're like, so when were you planning on doing this? And he's like, what do you think I am, some kind of cheap serial villain here?
Yeah.
I did it 35 minutes ago.
Yeah. And Dan doesn't believe him.
Yeah, he doesn't believe this is actually happening.
So they, Lori and Manhattan arrive,
Walking through a snowstorm.
and the time stuff that John sees
Wibbly wobbly.
is wibbly wobbly and messed up. So he's like, Lori, I'm talking to Rorschach. And she's
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
So he teleports inside, and she follows after a minute or two. So he's like, why are you hiding from me, Vite? You know I can find you. And he walks through that intrinsic field subtractor,
And it
gets
kills...
blasted.
it-
But Bastus is in there too, and he cries. He's like, I'm sorry.
I wish the cat's name was Bucephalus,
Why?
because that's the name of Alexander the Great's horse. He named a city
Oh, really?
after it. Yeah.
Maybe it is a derivative of that thing.
It could be, yeah.
And then Silk Spectre tries to shoot him.
But he catches
And
the
he goes,
He
freaking...
catches the bullet.
He gets this thing.
Catches the bullet.
And then just immediately gets back up and kicks her.
Yeah.
Like I said, the action is sparing, but it's really freaking good.
Yeah, so then he thinks that he's killed Dr. Manhattan.
But
Dr.
then-
Manhattan crashes through the wall, and he's a giant.
He's like, you're stupid. That's the first thing I learned to do when
Yeah.
I got my powers. Remake myself. Yeah, giant Doc Manhattan.
He goes on about, you're maybe the smartest man, but you might as well be the smartest cockroach compared to me.
And then he turns on the TV, and it looks like he has won because everybody is talking about how they're going to go against these aliens, and he's
And
going to
crying.
say,
I did it.
"Yep,
Yeah, I
did it!
He's so
no
happy.
more, no
And
more
then
war." Basically,
at the
everyone
end-
is on the same page.
At the end, they're
That's
like, we're
a
getting
funny
a comment
panel.
from Moscow. They want to cease hostilities. They're retreating from Afghanistan.
But the thing is, would they even have been in Afghanistan if he hadn't have made Manhattan get off Earth?
Well, I mean,
No.
it would have happened eventually anyway.
It could eventually
Eventually.
So, I mean, he just decided to go ahead and do his
Just saying,
thing.
Osmandius was kind of right.
happen.
Why are you bullying me? Well, I mean, he convinces the heroes here. Like, this
establishes
Ozymandias
peace.
is the second man
He
in
says,
the room.
all right, here's two possibilities here. You tell everybody that I did this. But then all those people die for nothing because the war wouldn't end. There would be more conflict because they would associate me with America and the tensions would rise even further. Or, you don't tell anybody, I saved the world, and we go about our
Yeah, I
merry
build a
way.
utopia.
Yeah.
And then
Now the world is together.
And John is like, his
Rorschach's
logic
like,
is sound.
no.
Yeah,
he's-
Rorschach
he's
is no.
Straight up no.
Never compromise.
I love
So
Rorschach.
he walks out, and John's like, where are you going? Back to the outship. Back to America. Evil must be punished. People must be told.
And Silk's like, I want to be held by you, Night Owl. Let's do it beside Ozymandias' pool.
I want to do you because I can.
Yeah.
Because we're alive.
Yes.
So yeah, and then John is
You
like,
can't
I
let
can't.
me go.
I can't
Well,
let you
do
do
it.
that. Yeah. Rorschach takes off his mask. His tears are cascading down his face.
This
and
is super F in the
yeah.
chat right here.
R.I.P. Rorschach.
Then he sees them spooning.
And
he
he's fine.
smiles.
Butt naked and he smiles.
Yeah.
He smiles and then walks across water.
It's so weird.
And then
Then he walks up the wall through the ceiling to meet Ozymandias.
God.
He tells him to not worry about Rorschach because he's dead.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't tell him he killed him. He's-
I know, but he tells him not to worry about him.
He says, "I doubt he will be able to reach civilization." Is what he says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Basically saying, don't worry about him.
Yeah.
I fucking murdered
No,
him.
he didn't. He didn't say he murdered him. He just said, "I don't think he'll be able to
We know
reach
he
him."
did.
Which is another way of saying,
I
Don't worry
know.
about him.
I don't think he's alluding that he murdered him. I'm pretty sure he's just saying, "Oh, don't worry about him."
Anyway.
he doesn't get what we're saying, right?
Anyway.
I get what
He
you're
doesn't-
saying. I
no,
just
he
don't think
doesn't.
that's what it means.
You didn't consider Rorschach.
That's
I
not how he
strongly
says
doubt
it.
he'll reach civilization. It's a book, Wyatt. How do you know how he says
Because
it?
it's John.
That's
It's
ridiculous.
Manhattan. He's deadpan and everything.
No, I think he has personality again at this point. I think he has some.
Then he says he's going to create life. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's about to leave, and he said, did I do all right in the end? And he said, in the end, nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. And he's like, what do you mean? And then he disappears.
But that whole thing, yes, I have. I think perhaps I'll create some.
Yep. So it kind of
That's
leaves...
the DC universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of
Really?
leaves... It kind of leaves some
They retconned
doubt.
that, but yeah.
Oh.
It kind of leaves some
For
doubt with
Doomsday Clock.
Ozymandias.
They're saying that he left and created the DC universe. That's what they're saying right now.
Well, it leaves some doubt with Ozymandias.
Then we see Dan and
Sam
Lorraine.
and what was it? Sarah
Yeah. Hollis.
Hollis. Yeah, they go and visit her mom. They
Dan
have
looks
new
so
identities.
weird,
They
blonde.
both look weird. I don't like
Wait.
it.
Wait. Oh, you should sue. Maybe that's why I thought her name was Sue.
Oh my God, Tanner.
I thought that her name was Sue because I knew they were both S's, and I think that's why I called her Sue.
Sam and Sandra Hollis.
Look at that. Look at that character development over this
Right.
2.5 hour read and tell.
Well, then Dan finds that little porno comic. She's like, well, do you want one? And he says, well, actually, in 1952, I owned a copy.
Yeah. Just right in front of his new wife, yeah.
Yeah.
I like him.
That's where she kisses the comedian's picture. Then New York's being rebuilt.
Do
It's
you
now
see
Russian. A lot of Russian stuff.
Where's
Russian burgers.
where's the poster?
Posters here?
Yeah,
One
we
world,
see.
one accord.
Yeah, they've formed
Both
a
the
new government
flags.
called the Accord, I guess.
But this intern is going back to the New Frontiersman, and he's like, give me my burger and find something to put in the paper. I can't talk bad about the Russians now that they're allies. And he's like, well, what should I do? And he's like, whatever, just do it. I'm
Do
eating.
something for once in your
Then
miserable
he's,
life.
then he's about to. Oh, and I love how he spills ketchup on his smiley face shirt.
and that
like
becomes the
button.
comedian's button.
And then he's reaching for the journal. Rorschach's journal.
Rorschach's
It
journal.
would be a stronger world, a stronger loving world to die in. John Cale. And that's the book, fellas.
Woo!
So, if you stayed with us this long, we hope you enjoyed.
Toilet toads.
We are going to be doing Doomsday Clock next to follow this up.
Is that a continuation of this?
Yes.
Okay.
But much later.
I figured.
This came out in 1985.
Yeah.
So, Doomsday Clock just finished recently. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but these guys haven't read it yet, so I'm excited to see what they think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you on the next one.